my God.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah. How you doing? Holy moms. You are huge. Jesus.
How much you weigh, man? 325.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Abel got to take a...
That ain't good, though.
Wow, man. Thank you.
Like 295 horse, man.
Thank you for coming back, bro.
Me and them boys will probably come say hi to you. Nice to meet you guys, man.
Oh, my God.
I'm like,
Thank you so much,
God bless
man.
you guys, man. I'll see you in there. All right.
Oh, he remembered your name, bro. He remembered your name.
Well, all right, have a good one.
That's two.
I don't know if y'all can read this on me, but I'm incredibly grateful, and I'm really, really nervous to be here, but I never thought of this would happen. And this right here, this is just me, okay? This is a version of me that I've never got to introduce to you guys before. This is just me being me, genuine me for the first time. And I just want to share with you, this past year in my life, I lost a lot of things. I lost my career. I love you too. I lost my career. I lost my self-confidence. I lost two people who were very, very close to me. And I lost my way. And I got to a point where I thought that everything that I'd ever done here or otherwise, I thought it was all meaningless. Nothing I ever did has mattered to anyone. And I was wrong. I was wrong. Once I was done feeling sorry for myself, and I decided to go out in the world again and see people. There were people everywhere. They would say, "Thank you, Bray, man. When you coming back home?" And then every once in a while, there would be someone I would meet that's truly remarkable, and you know who you are. But these people, they would come to me. They would come to me and they would say, "Bray, I just wanted to thank you, man, because I was in a time of need, and I lost people that were close to me, and I lost my self-confidence, and I felt weak, and I felt vulnerable, and in this weakened state, I found your words, Bray. I found your words, and I just wanted to thank you, man. You saved my life, Bray." The truth is, I don't think about stuff like that.
Yeah, Terry Funk, what happened? Why were you on hand here?
Why was I on hand? I guess because I think I'm some kind of... why was I on hand? I guess because I think I'm some kind of half-assed actor that comes out to California once in a while and tries to make a buck. And somehow I got my SAG card and picked up a few dates out here. But basically, as I'm a professional wrestler, so whenever there's wrestling around, like Cal Independent Wrestling, I'll tell you that's exactly where, I'm going to be there, because I love to see the young guys in the business that are in the country today and take a look at them, because there's a lot of talent in this world that a lot of people don't even realize that is out there. and that deserves looking at. I can't do anything for him financially except pat him on the back and say, keep on going, guy, and maybe some of these days you'll have a big break with one of the major organizations, although I don't approve too much of the major organizations because they're changing professional wrestling as far as merit is concerned. Merit has very little to do with its business anymore, but I came out here to this little arena and I was very impressed with some of the guys. I was impressed with basically not so much their, and believe me, a lot of them have ability too, but I was impressed with their heart and how they love the business and how they want to perform. And that last match kind of took place, and I jumped in the ring and kind of got my old heart beating, and thought I'd go try it one more time, and I wonder when it's going to be the last one more. I keep on telling people that whenever I finish wrestling, well, that's going to be whenever I begin to embarrass myself. And sometimes I wonder if I embarrass myself by my actions, and I don't think I did today, so I've got a couple more times left, and hopefully I can have a couple more with you guys out here, and I want to wish you guys all the luck in the world because you've got a great bunch of guys, and God bless you.
Terry Funk, always a pleasure. If there was ever a true legend, we have him right here.
It's Saturday night. That means it's time for the Don Tony Show.
The wait all week long is finally over. Get Don Tony's perspective on current affairs in the world of pro wrestling and much more. The Don Tony Show.
And now your host, the man, the legend, Don Tony.
Oh, wow. You know, I purposely didn't touch anything in the back of my, where I do this. And somebody sent me a DM today that's in wrestling and said, you know, very, very quickly, your backdrop is becoming a tribute to the deceased. And I turned around and I look, and it's like Eddie Guerrero, China, Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, Bray Wyatt, Brian Pillman, Jim Neidhart, ECW, Terry Funk. Imagine your all-time favorite wrestler and your current favorite wrestler. They both go within 24 hours. If that affects fans that much, could you imagine what their family and friends and fellow wrestlers are going through? You know, I was reading tons of tributes and comments, and I started falling into that rabbit hole to show some of them to you. You pull this person, and you got to pull this person, and you got to pull this person, and you got to pull this person, and the next thing you know, you got 5 hours of tributes. But I will say this, before we touch on both of their careers. I read everything. I read some of the controversial stuff. We'll save that for another day. But the one that probably stuck out to me the most, not necessarily about either Terry Funk or Bray Wyatt, but it was from Swerve Strickland. You know, and we always talked about it, you know, a tragedy, a death should not be the reason for people to come together. Now, for me, and for a lot of you out there, that doesn't apply to us because we are all together. Doesn't matter if you're an AEW fan, a WWE fan, neither of those, indie, whatever, you respect what everybody likes and dislikes. You don't call somebody stupid or a moron or what are you, fucking retarded? How could you like that? We don't do that here. But what I realized more than anything this weekend is that when it comes to AEW and WWE specifically, the wrestlers there, it's a brotherhood. It's a motherhood. You have obviously rival organizations, and yes, maybe the owners despise each other, but those wrestlers, man, I think back to the Monday Night Wars with Nitro and Raw. And I think at that time there was a good amount of animosity because some of the wrestlers that went to WCW, were all for trying to knock WWF out of business. And it became a personal vendetta. Then when WCW closed down, the WWF wrestlers were all, not all, but a lot of them were very, very angry that all these WCW guys are coming aboard. Not all of them, but some, because that could be their job. So they were, not all of them were greeted with open arms. But you see today, the passing of both guys, and you see just the outpouring of love from wrestlers across the board. I know there's a lot of fans out there that clamor for Edge, or not necessarily Edge, but maybe like, Lacey Evans to show up on AEW and just rip the crap out of WWE. I know, back in the day, we got a kick out of Jeff Jarrett cursing on Eric Bischoff on Raw, and Brian Pillman calling out Bischoff, common denominator in ECW. But, those wrestlers, no matter where they work, they look out for each other, and Seth Rollins paid a nice little tribute yesterday. And if you look on the surface, because of how difficult it was to work with The Fiend, you would have thought that there was this animosity between both guys, and there wasn't. There wasn't. You may have a difficult time working with someone in the ring, but outside that ring, it is totally different. And, it sucks. This sucks. It sucks that Terry Funk passed at 79, because it reminds us that at some point we're all going to go. Our heroes are going to go. Our family members are going to go. My mom's birthday is Monday. She turned 75. And I don't need to remind everyone what happened to her several years ago. She's on borrowed time. But for some weird reason, and I posted it, so there's no way I could be lying about it. For some reason on Thursday, I said, I don't want to wait till Monday to celebrate her birthday. I went out, I bought an ice cream cake, gave her a gift, took a picture, posted online. Hey, I didn't want to wait. Just something. Then you get the news that Bray Wyatt dies at 36. Heart attack. Complications from COVID. Yeah, I guess you could use that term. Now, I'm not going to do a complete retrospect of their careers. I have a little video clip that I'm going to share with you in a little bit that I promise you will love. You will love. But just to open up with this, when I heard about Bray Wyatt's passing, the first person I thought about, besides his family, was Keith Lee. Because we had literally a carbon copy of what happened with Keith Lee. If you remember, you had people reporting that he was pulled, I think, from Elimination Chamber or something, because WWE has nothing for him creatively. But meanwhile, he was on his deathbed. He's fighting for his life. And, you still to this day ask yourself, is Keith Lee, will he ever be 100%? That's why I stay away from criticizing, oh, this is not the Keith Lee that we saw against Dijak. Yeah. We don't know inside what's going on with him. But with Bray Wyatt, you might remember a couple of months ago. I don't remember which episode it was. I will pull it over the weekend. I'll remember the date. But I remember we were talking about Bray Wyatt dealing with some serious health issues. And, the word going around is that he had COVID. I know if you look at the chat transcript from that night, a lot of you also said, yeah, it sounds like COVID. The problem with COVID, and believe me, I'm not pro-vax, anti-vax. You do what you want to do. You trust your body. I respect how you trust your body. You do what you want to do. I've gotten 5 vaccines. I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to get the booster, and thank God I don't have a family history of heart issues. I mean, my grandmother died at 61, but she was extremely obese. I mean, I shouldn't talk, but, my mom, she had heart surgery. She's still with us. She's going to be 75. My dad had heart issues. He's still with us. He's 74. But with Bray Wyatt, what we've always heard about COVID is that if you have a secondary condition, COVID could really, I don't want to use vulgarity in this episode, but it could really fuck you up. It really can. And if you have a heart ailment, if you're overweight, if you have respiratory problems, if you have a history of this or some forms of cancer, even if you've beat it, COVID grabs your immune system and has a ball with it. And while you're reading online, that's why I said the Keith Lee thing, while you're reading online, we talked about it 3 weeks ago. Remember that news article that got 1 million views on Twitter? It's up to WWE and Bray Wyatt if he returns. Like, what does that even mean? And then you hear creatively, this and that, they're just trying to find the right storyline. But meanwhile, this guy's fighting, dealing with complications, serious health issues. And unfortunately, a couple of days ago, he got a heart attack. He had a lot of complications from COVID. Never fully was able to come back. 36 years old, man. 36 years old. And, we think about JoJo. We think about his kids. I think a lot of people may not realize that they only got engaged a year ago. Their whole life together was ahead of them. And he's gone. So, this episode obviously is going to be primarily for the passing of Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt. I watched SmackDown yesterday. We did a little watch party, reminiscing a little bit about both guys. One thing I did want to show you, just to clear up a little confusion, because some people were reporting that Bo Dallas was, when they closed out SmackDown yesterday, Bo Dallas was in the ring live on SmackDown. And and I'm only posting this because there were a lot of people asking questions, was that Bo Dallas? Was that believe it or not, the way WWE did it, and props to them, it looked like somebody was inside that ring live in SmackDown. But I want to thank John for sending me the cell phone footage. He was live in attendance. And believe it or not, what you saw yesterday was the Titantron. See, that's what we saw yesterday on TV. And yeah, you're looking and you're saying, is that Bray Wyatt? Is that a silhouette? Is that some computer graphics? Is that Bo Dallas just insanely, perfectly still? And then John sent me this for anybody that is curious. This is how they saw it live and in person. Still beautiful. Still beautiful. All right. So I figured I'd share with you. As far as video tributes go, I only took one. There was so many to choose from. Some WWE stars could not make it there. Some have come publicly, from Seth to, I think, Becky, Alexa Bliss, others. They tried to get to the building, but unfortunately, and believe me, a lot of people don't understand, there is a shortage of air traffic controllers. A lot of airlines have cut a lot of their flights. I'm going to Florida next Friday, and believe it or not, I'm going to Florida with JetBlue, and I'm coming back on Delta. And when you come back on Delta, there is only one flight nonstop the entire day to get back to New York. So it's not like you have a plethora of flights to choose from. But out of all the tributes, I figured since we haven't seen her in a while, I wanted to show you two. One, I'll show you now because it's only a few seconds, but I thought it was very, very cool. Chris Jericho performed with Fozzy a day or two ago. And during the concert, they got the news, and Chris Jericho paid this little tribute to Bray Wyatt.
In the pro wrestling world, we lost a great brother last night.
And at that time, he didn't even say Bray Wyatt's name yet. The whole crowd knew.
Great guy. One of the most creative minds I ever had the pleasure to work with, and I worked with him all over the world. I think we even worked here. If not in London, we worked in the UK, everywhere else. You guys can sing. So thanks to Wyndham, thanks to you guys for remembering him, and we dedicate this show tonight, and I dedicate this show on Sunday to the memory of the late great Wyndham Rotunda.
Really nice, man. Really nice. I'll show you one more little tribute. This is from Alexa Bliss. Runs about 2.5 minutes. And beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. And, obviously her career was changed dramatically because of Bray Wyatt. But I'm going to play her little tribute to Bray for you.
Before tonight's episode of SmackDown, I just wanted to come on here and say a few words. I was planning on attending tonight's SmackDown, but unfortunately, with the last minute flight options, it wasn't really possible to get me there in time before the show ended. So I wanted to come on here and just talk about Wyndham a little bit and what tonight means. And first I wanted to say, I'm sending out so much love and thoughts to Wyndham's entire family. We are all here for you, and we are so sorry for your loss. I know tonight's SmackDown is going to be a celebration of Wyndham and the Bray Wyatt character and everything Wyndham has done in his life and career in WWE. So I'm going to try to keep this as positive as I can. Wyndham is an incredible person who we have all loved for years, and he is just so friendly and lights up a room and is so creative. He's a creative genius who brought us all the amazing gift of Bray Wyatt for the last so many years. And I think the character Bray Wyatt that Wyndham has given us has been incredible and has been so fascinating to see, and has brought us all so much joy to watch. And, working with Wyndham was just it was magic. It was magic because being able to watch him in his creative element and be able to work with him really, expanded my creativity, and being able to just watch him work and work beside him was just truly an honor. And I still say to this day, was the most fun I've ever had in my entire career in WWE. And I am so thankful that he allowed me and trusted me to come in and be a small part of his vision and his creativity. And unfortunately now there is a huge void in our world and in the WWE universe that no one will ever be able to fill, because Wyndham was so special and everything he brought to us was so special. And I think we should all be so grateful for that. His creative genius of the Wyatt family and the Fiend and the Firefly Funhouse has really opened up all of our minds and opened our eyes to a whole nother world in our industry that none of us could have ever thought imaginable. And I just want to say, Wyndham, you've brought so much joy to everyone around you and to the millions who've loved watching you week after week and loved watching your journey and just see your creative genius unfold. We will continue to celebrate your life, your legacy, and the amazing human you are, and we will continue to light up the sky with fireflies. And we all love you, Wyndham.
As I was playing that video, I always keep my DMs in the background. Sometimes I get DMs while we go live, and there's actually a cool story that some of you already know, but it has to do with Wyndham Bray Wyatt. I'll explain in a minute. But my DM went off and opened it up while I was playing the Alexa Bliss, and I scrambled while the video was playing to get a picture. But we have a third death to report. Not necessarily wrestling, but it's somebody that appeared on WWE and is an icon and 99 years old. We're not talking about Betty White, obviously. Bob Barker passed away, 99 years old. Listen, it's no secret Terry Funk is my favorite wrestler of all time. I've always said that poster will never come down. And I have wholeheartedly echoed countless times that Bray Wyatt is my current favorite wrestler in wrestling. It absolutely sucks, in hindsight, to understand mental health is a big deal. And we're not getting to a thing about mental health today, but you understand how rough it has been for Bray over the last 12 months, and thank God he had his family with him. And then you hear that speech when he came back in 2022, and you knew this was not, I mean, obviously had to turn it into a storyline at the very end, Uncle Howdy clip, which we edited out. But, the last memory you really have is the match with him and LA Knight. Last night on SmackDown, the main event was LA Knight and Finn Balor. And, we think about both guys, and I truthfully believe that if he was able to wrestle and would have been back on TV, I think we probably would have saw Randy Orton against Finn Balor instead. Or maybe Randy Orton and LA Knight. I don't know. But, LA Knight recently having that Mountain Dew match. Remember, that's because of Mountain Dew. They were promoting a product. That's why they did what they did. But, Finn Balor, you look back, I noticed yesterday people were asking, who is the greatest rivalry, the greatest feud for Bray Wyatt? And trust me, there is some really beautiful individual moments. Them on one side of the ring and the Shield, I will never forget. And I take pride doing this since 1997. ECW's Barely Legal first ever pay-per-view is what pushed me over the edge to start a wrestling hotline to just talk about wrestling more. Terry Funk, other than Paul Heyman, without Terry Funk, ECW doesn't go anywhere near as far as it did. Greatest of all time. Greatest of all time. But when you talk about Bray Wyatt with feuds, I think back, it's got to be Randy Orton. It's got to be Randy Orton. And listen, do not get me wrong. When they won the tag titles, it was a cool moment. The storyline felt a little forced because you knew WrestleMania, all the rumors at that time was Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt, WrestleMania. So when they won the tag titles, it was a cool thing, but you knew it was going to be short-lived. Then they had the Chamber of Horrors match. Does anybody remember the WrestleMania match when they had the LED screens and there's bugs crawling around? I mean, let's be honest, that didn't go off all that well. They brawled in the Wyatt compound. Randy Orton set it on fire. What was that, 2017? I have no notes today. 2017. I do have wiki for Terry Funk because I got to be reminded how long his career was and what he did. But Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt feuded for about 5 years. Not, the entire time. But, in the end, we ended with WrestleMania. Remember Randy Orton setting Bray Wyatt on fire during the COVID era? Remember all the pre-recorded segments so they could do little special effects? For me, Bray Wyatt's biggest rival is probably Randy Orton. As far as I know, we have not heard from Randy Orton as of yet. Listen, I saw some people calling out some people for not mentioning. Listen, everybody handles death differently. Sami Zayn wrote something yesterday that really caught my eye, and he doesn't handle death well. And I could relate to that 100. I don't like funeral homes. I don't like, seeing, because it reminds me deep down inside that one day I'm going to go. One day my mother's going to go. My father's going to go. Everybody that we look up to is going to go. We're never going to, but the one thing, I watched Mick Foley pay tribute to Terry Funk. Him and Conrad did a fun hour and a half. And if Mick Foley could hold it together for 90 minutes, we certainly can as well. I think this should be a celebration for those guys to appreciate, I took some photos. I put a quick little montage together of Bray Wyatt photos. Yeah, he's reunited with Brody Lee. You look, the Nexus. I think a lot of people forget that Husky Harris, Bray Wyatt, was removed from Nexus. Probably the greatest thing that they ever did in Bray Wyatt's career was boot him from Nexus, because that pissed him off. And he forced himself to recreate himself. And when he was in Florida Championship Wrestling, and then later NXT, he had a couple of reincarnations. There you go. Duke Rotundo. That look, I don't think echoes WWE Superstar. That's almost like that would be like a 1970s-esque tag team, but it was still cool that the brothers were able to work together. And then I think I have a picture here of them with their dad, Mike Rotundo. Yeah, IRS. That's from Florida Championship Wrestling. And you could see Bray starting to tweak his look a little bit. The one character that I think a lot of people aren't aware of is this: Axel Mulligan. If any of you out there never got a chance, you should look it up. And that is legit. For FCW, they had in the background posters of their up-and-coming stars, and there you could see Seth Rollins, and that is a very young EC3 in the background as well. But Axel Mulligan, Bray Wyatt, trying to find out who he is, what he could be. Insanely creative. Just creative. Then they finally got it. He finally got it with Bray Wyatt. That is early Florida Championship Wrestling. On my history show, we've covered so much of Bray Wyatt and Florida Championship Wrestling. His first ever promo as Bray Wyatt, he sounded like Forrest Gump. I remember my dad's shrimp boat. I'm sure a lot of you remember that promo. But you could see he's got it. Little inspiration with Cape Fear. If anybody's ever seen the movie Cape Fear. Yes, that you are correct, Josh. That is Eli Cottonwood in the background. Just think about it. Eli Cottonwood, if he didn't get his career ruined, he could have ended up a member of the Wyatt family. But yeah, that is early Bray Wyatt. And he's tweaking his character. He's tweaking his voice. Everything about him is his mannerisms. And then I found a picture online. I think it might be the next one of, yeah, there you go. That is Bray Wyatt from 2013 up to 2021. And obviously last year is a little bit more complicated because, it's a storyline that never ended. It never developed with Uncle Howdy. You look back on it now, guys, it didn't develop as far as it did more than anything because of health issues. We criticize the creative side of things because there's a lot behind the scenes that we don't know about. You hear little rumblings about his health. You hear rumblings that he had a serious illness. It was 3 or 4 months ago that there was a little buzz about COVID. And then I'm telling you, this is almost, I don't want to say mirrored, but this is almost the Keith Lee situation with the worst possible outcome. But for those on video, when you look at those 9 years, from 2013 to 2021, credit to TWWE TV who made this montage. Who's your favorite? Bray Wyatt out of all those years. For me, honestly, it's probably 2014. It's probably 2014 when he came out with Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. That was it. For me, that was it. Braun Strowman. And Braun Strowman was at SmackDown yesterday, and Braun Strowman crying his eyes out. Eric Rowan was at SmackDown yesterday as well. For those that ask, Braun Strowman is nowhere near a return to the ring. So that's why he did not wrestle yesterday. Eric Rowan did not wrestle either. Okay, but it was still beautiful to invite him to be on that stage. But for me, 2014. And you want to know something too, guys? I always post on Twitter, but if you do a Twitter search under my name and just type in Bray Wyatt, I have so much merchandise. I have about 40 boxes of those Bray Wyatt gift boxes that WWE was doing for those years. Yesterday in the watch party, I was showing everyone, I have Yowie Wowie Jam sitting. It was literally sitting on my floor collecting dust. Out of all my personal items, this is my favorite one of all time. And the only reason why I put my bobblehead in there is so people know that it's truly my photo and not a Google image poll. That card there is an autographed card of Bray Wyatt. I don't remember what year it was. It might be 2015. But it is serial number 1. Now, I'm an older guy. I'm in my 50s. I grew up opening baseball cards. You open it, you eat the cheap gum, and you're pulling cards. We used to buy baseball cards before there was ever inserts. Open up packs from the 70s and the 80s. When I opened up this pack of WWE Topps cards, and not only is there a Bray Wyatt autograph in there, but it's number 1. It is the first autograph. It says 001 on it. Little kid came out of me. Little kid came out of me. And I still have it. Never ever sold it. Don't think I ever will. I was thinking yesterday about putting boxes up on eBay and maybe giving the proceeds somehow to his family. Yes, yeah, tax write-off, obviously. I'm generous, but, I got to worry about my own. But I don't know what I'm going to do with all these boxes. I don't want to just give them away because I know they'll end up on eBay. But this is my favorite version of the Wyatt family. Nothing against Braun Strowman, but Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, Bray Wyatt. When they were on the opposite side of the ring of the Shield, they didn't even have a match. And the crowd is chanting, "Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit." It chills up my spine. They didn't even touch each other. Chills. Absolute chills. But just a couple of more photos that we pulled together. And some, obviously, not as memorable as others. I think there's the tag team titles with Randy Orton. That was a cool moment. There you go. That leads up to their feud, the House of Horrors. That come on, man. That was cool. The only thing that was funny about that, the only thing that was funny about that, does anybody remember, was Randy Orton the one in the limo? And it was bright outside. And then when they brawled in the house and they went back outside, it was pitch black out. I think it was something like that. Kind of funny when you think back when we were laughing about it being pitch black in LA Knight and Bray Wyatt have the pitch black match. I wonder if that was a little satire. But yeah, there's the WrestleMania match that we kind of want to forget about. The LED screens were just a little goofy. There you go. Hey, Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor was a great feud. Thank God we never got this. I don't know why. I got to flash back and remind myself why the match never went down the way it did, but we were supposed to get Finn Balor as Pumpkinhead against Sister Abigail. At this point, you feel like, okay, creatively it might be going off the rails a little bit. But before you know it, the guy fucking reinvents himself. Firefly Funhouse. It's tremendous. You know, like I said earlier, look, I have all the puppets. You know, even I don't want to take the video down yet, but I'm literally looking at Yowie Wowie Ramblin' Rabbit breakfast spread. I have it right in front of me. So we can't open it. There's nothing inside. But the Firefly Funhouse, a little bit of like a warped Mr. Rogers, Pee Wee Herman, who recently passed as well. You know, incorporating Alexa Bliss. And then we had The Fiend. There you go. I still have one of those lanterns somewhere. You know, you buy something when it first comes out and you just put it away and you forget about it. And now you realize, you know, really, really special. But The Fiend, that's probably, if there was my least favorite moment in Bray Wyatt's career, it's probably Saudi Arabia when he took on Goldberg. I remember the anger, and I have been a lifelong Goldberg fan, but that in Saudi Arabia, that was probably my least favorite moment ever, you know. And look, he took it like a champ. What did he take 4 spears that night against Goldberg? But then he incorporated Alexa Bliss, totally transformed her career. There's Randy Orton, lighting him on fire. And then his return in 2022. Then we had, there you go, LA Knight, Uncle Howdy, and Bray Wyatt all in the ring together. And it was a beautiful photo that somebody sent me online. Oh, yeah, there's the pitch black match with Bray Wyatt. Hey, it looked scary, man. I mean, give him credit. Obviously, they had to do the glow because of the, but that picture gets me. I mean, this giant monster holding his newborn. Braun Strowman is the godfather, by the way. For those that want to know, Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt were very, very close. Very, very close. But there you see him and JoJo with one of his newborns. I think I have another picture with his family. Oh, how could you forget? Undertaker whispering in Bray Wyatt's ear that time. Special moment. But, you know, my heart goes out to his family. They got engaged 1 year ago, guys. A year ago. That's his family. That's the Allstate Arena yesterday paying tribute. And somebody sent me this. I don't know who made it. That's beautiful. That was nice. That was nice. Oh, yeah, look. I remember when he was the Fiend going, Yowie Wowie. Can't believe it, man. And yes, I'm with some of you. When the lights were going out yesterday to close out SmackDown, you know, for a second you're like, no, is he still? No. You don't, yeah. Unfortunately, Schubert says Bray Wyatt in Hall of Fame 2024. I think, yeah. I would. Listen, Bray Wyatt, and like I said, and I'm only saying this because I want people to remember this part, why I say this. Bray Wyatt is my favorite wrestler in the last 10 years. I've said that countless times on these shows. I don't say it now because he passed, but I'll say this. Bray Wyatt, not the smoothest wrestler in the ring. That's why his creativity was so epic and amazing, because he knew he wasn't doing flippy shit. He knew that his in-ring repertoire had to be theater. WrestleMania, a couple of years ago, right before Kev and I split up for a little while. We're back together doing some things. And yes, we are still doing predictions for Payback this coming Tuesday. I'm sure he and I will have a little discussion on Terry Funk Bray Wyatt as well. But if you remember that WrestleMania, the two main events, well, the two cinematic matches were Undertaker and AJ Styles and John Cena and Bray Wyatt. For Kev, Undertaker and AJ Styles was his favorite. For me, it was Bray Wyatt and John Cena. And as I said then, I say it now. Why? Because I think I said Bray Wyatt and John Cena was a mindgasm. It was a creative masterpiece. It was just crazy, creative shit. It's just a culmination. The creativity of what Bray Wyatt did, Bray Wyatt was old school. There are not many people today that come anywhere close to the creativity that Bray Wyatt did. And think back to that Nexus picture. You know, when he got sent back down and he just searching and searching and searching. And then, you know, coming up slowly with Bray Wyatt. And first sounding like he's Forrest Gump and ending up doing what he did. Just sucks. Because at 36 years old, Bray Wyatt was that kind of wrestler that if he were to overcome these ailments and drop a little weight, because obviously the weight is an issue too. It's, you know, having that extra weight is not healthy. But if he were to have overcome that, Bray Wyatt could have easily wrestled into his 40s and even 50 years old, because you don't have to leave his feet as much as others. You know, people say to me when I do the shows once in a while, some people say to me, who from today do you think could have gotten over in the 80s? Or, good one, 2 weeks ago, people were asking, do I think The Undertaker and Paul Bearer, if that character began in 2023, would have worked? No. It wouldn't have. The fans would never have given it a shot. But I've always said Bray Wyatt, that character could have been 80s. Cartoon. I mean, obviously, I don't think they would ever go to the scope of The Fiend back then, but old school. And had so many battles, not just physically, but emotionally as well. And, man, thank you for an awesome 10 plus years. Can't say enough. Can't say enough. And I'm still baffled that he passed away. Some of you know this story already, and we'll move on to Terry Funk a little bit. Not too long ago, I did an episode, and I was talking about Barry Windham. And, remember, Windham is named after, the Windham family. And I mentioned that Barry Windham, remember in November, December of last year, they didn't think he was going to make it. And when I got alert that Barry Windham was coming here to Queens, New York, do an autograph signing, I'm like, what? Holy shit. I'm ecstatic that he's doing not only better, but able to travel. Nobody said anything about Barry Windham. So I went on my show, and it's still in the title. I put, excellent news, cool news about Barry Windham. And the next day I got a message from one of his family members. It's on YouTube, thanking me for bringing it up. And then I got a DM. And I opened a DM up, and I don't remember what episode we were doing. We might have been doing a Sunday show, but like I said, I always keep my DMs active in case something happens while we're live. If I'm not looking at the chat room, I look at the DM and it's from Wyndham 6. Thank you for remembering Barry. And I was like, you're very welcome. It's one of my old school favorites. And, best damn believe that'll be saved. So some DMs that I have, some emails, from Bison Smith to Daphne to now that, there's things that I saved. That's why even emails addresses that I had from the mid 90s, I don't ever close down. I have, stuff saved that I'll open up once in a while and, puts a little smile on my face. But rest in peace, Bray Wyatt. WWE did a nice tribute yesterday. I'm glad that they didn't have much as far as individual wrestlers giving a speech during SmackDown. I mean, you remember in the past when Owen had passed and others, you had wrestlers giving a couple of quick memories. The thing you got to understand is, number one, it was so abrupt and unexpected that to do that kind of recording, especially that the Raw roster is not there, cell phone, iPhone footage you could do, but showing the tweets, I think, was a better way to go. A lot of wrestlers posting tributes online, which you could read. I actually wanted to show some of them to you here. The problem is, I think I'm going to have a technical issue if I try to. Let me see if I can. Oh, yeah, maybe I can. Actually, maybe I can. Here, I'm on WWE's Twitter, and I'll just show you very quickly. I'm shocked that I'm not, because usually I can't screw around with video while I'm live, but just going on WWE's Twitter feed, the Usos posted a little tribute to Bray Wyatt. Rest in paradise, Us. Cody Rhodes, power and endless love to your family. Little tribute from Carmelo Hayes. Bayley, absolutely. She had a great friendship with Bray Wyatt. Between your laugh and being able to witness your greatness every time you performed, you are truly irreplaceable. I'm in disbelief, just like everyone else. My heart goes out to Wyndham's whole family and everybody who knows and loves him. Kevin Owens, one of the most creative, unique minds I ever met in this industry. One of the first to welcome new guys with open arms. One of the kindest, one of the good ones. We will miss you, Wyndham. Yeah, the Miz. The world lost a good one today. Bray Wyatt's storytelling ability, along with his unique creativity in the ring, was a force that kept your eyes glued to the TV screen. Wyndham Rotunda's fun-loving, free spirit. Oh, that didn't work. Paired with his infectious laugh is what I will truly miss. Mick Foley paying tribute. I know that was on SmackDown yesterday. The Rock. Yeah, Sonya Deville, Dijak, Damian Priest. William Regal with a little tribute. Devastated to hear the passing of Wyndham Rotunda. Bray Wyatt sent condolences to his family. Big E says, the first dude that took me under his wing when I got signed in 2009, we spent so much of our adult lives together, praying for JoJo, praying for his kids. I will miss your laugh and boyish charm, my friend. Goodbye, Wyndham. Yeah, the New Day brawling with the Wyatt family, and that happened because of the Hardy compound. When Matt and Jeff Hardy were doing their little thing on Impact, WWE was like, we got to do one ourselves. And I don't care that it was copying, because a lot of people are like, oh, they're copying the Hardy. So what? New Day and the Wyatt family doing what they were doing. I thought that was pretty cool, man. I thought that was pretty cool. Going down the list, you got Cora Jade, Pat McAfee, Ivar, Kathy Kelly, Triple H is the one who broke the news. So there you go. There you go. Rest in peace, Wyndham Rotunda, a.k.a. Bray Wyatt. Yesterday on SmackDown, we had 4 matches. And I'm going to get Terry Funk because I want to segue this way. We had Rey Mysterio beating Grayson Waller in a non-title match. Austin Theory got involved. Santos Escobar got involved. Santos running like there was no injury. Austin Theory clips him again, but I guess this time around it didn't hurt because it sets up a tag match next week. And at Payback, you will have Rey Mysterio versus Austin Theory in a rematch. So Rey Mysterio will keep this belt for a little while, and then ultimately I think this is going to have to lead to a match against Santos Escobar. We also had Io Sky having a first title defense, retaining over Zelina Vega. It was a good match. I mean, it was a lot better than I think people expected. This was not like a Rhea Ripley squash match. And Zelina Vega has a couple of wins under her belt against Io Sky. You know, a little Shotzi interference, but no Shotzi yesterday again. And Io Sky won clean. Even though Damage Control was outside the ring, she won clean. As I said earlier, LA Knight, and I know I skipped over a match because this is going to lead to Terry Funk. LA Knight beats Finn Balor, no Judgment Day interference, straight up clean win, which the win itself is a big deal for LA Knight. LA Knight cut a promo, paid a little tribute to Bray Wyatt. You know, I mean, didn't suddenly become his friend because he passed. They feuded, but he said that in hindsight, Bray Wyatt prepared LA Knight for what's next, which is kind of like the storyline that we always thought may come about of Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar, that Brock Lesnar decided to attack Cody Rhodes to prepare him for Roman Reigns down the line. You know, I know it never came about on TV, but it kind of feels like the same thing. But I did like at the very end when LA Knight called out The Miz, and they are having a match at Payback, by the way. Cody Rhodes is not having a match at Payback, which I'll mention in a moment, but I think he may. LA Knight's going to take on Miz. They showed footage of The Miz. I don't know if he was in California, but TMZ caught up with him, and they were talking about LA Knight. Miz is saying LA Knight is like Napster and MySpace, which was pretty funny because I lived through those eras, especially Napster, man. That was, yes, MySpace as well, but LA Knight says, you know, he took a page from Bray Wyatt, and he says, when you see me, Miz, run. And it was good. It was a good promo by LA Knight. When he jumped up to the middle rope and hit the suplex on Finn Balor, because of the miss with Sheamus, if you remember the day before SummerSlam, every time he does that move, you kind of like, oh, I hope he nails it. And he nailed it. But Finn Balor losing pretty uneventful yesterday. Of course, this is a tribute match to Bray Wyatt. He doesn't lose any momentum or credibility from it. But now we talk a little bit about Terry Funk. And I use this as a segue. Terry Funk passed away, 79 years old. Yesterday, in tribute to Terry Funk, they announced they're going to have a hardcore tag team match. Now, I'm thinking to myself, okay, cool. Who are the opponent? Who is going to tag teams are going to be? And then I remembered, oh shit, they did hype up the Brawling Brutes versus the Street Profits for this week's SmackDown. By the way, Jimmy Uso's segment was postponed for the following week because of this. expect some extra antics to go on, especially since it'll be the day before Payback. But they did a beautiful package for Terry Funk. Cody Rhodes comes out and pays tribute to Terry Funk. We'll get back to Cody Rhodes in a minute, and I have something in front of me that I want to show everyone. I think you'll really, I know I showed it once before. When I show it now, I think it'll put a smile on everybody's face. But they announced that the Street Profits versus the Brawling Brutes yesterday was going to be a hardcore match. Now, I will be totally honest with you. They did one table spot. There was nothing about that match that was hardcore. I even said yesterday, it reminded me of a typical AEW match where everybody is brawling, a little outside antics. Like, there was nothing hardcore about it. And I'm listening to Michael Cole, and listen, I've sung the praise of Michael Cole for a long time, way before there was even a cool thing to do. But when he's like, oh, Terry Funk would be proud of this right now. My friends, I'm going to show you a video now. It's about 5 minutes long. It has to do with the opening video I showed you tonight of Terry Funk at an event in California in 1994. When Michael Cole yesterday said Terry Funk would be proud of this hardcore match, if that match was rated by the TV and motion picture, so whoever great, it would have been rated G. I don't even know if it wouldn't be rated PG. There was nothing hardcore about it. And as I'm watching this yesterday and I'm thinking about Terry Funk, there was only one match that I wanted to share with you today. The video quality is not good, but it's a match that I always talked about that you will absolutely love. We flash back. Now, it's not the whole match. It's only 5 minutes of shit. But for any of you out there that Terry Funk was way after your time, way before your time, I should say. What am I saying? Way before your time. And you never really got to see him. You know, maybe you saw some old ECW, or maybe you saw, the Hall of Fame, or maybe some WWE Network stuff. But if you never witnessed Terry Funk, I've been a fan of Terry Funk's since the late 70s. When I became a fan in 79, looking in the magazines and seeing some of the shit he was doing blew me away. A lot of people don't know that he fought Bruiser Brody, I think, in 1978. Terry Funk started wrestling in 1965. 1965. I caught on to him in 79 when I started watching wrestling, and then you get the magazines, then you start tape trading in the 80s, and then you see him pour motor oil all over his body, which we covered on the history show. Empty arena match with Jerry the King Lawler, walking around with the real NWA championship. Terry Funk, for a lot of people, is way before their time. But if you want a perfect example of why I always loved Terry Funk, and he became my favorite wrestler of all time in the 80s. If you are interested, Mick Foley and Conrad did a tribute. Foley is Pod. And one thing that Mick Foley talked about, and I think this sums up Terry Funk, the man. Mick Foley talked about how his body was so messed up, Terry Funk, by 1994, 1995. And then he brought up on how Terry Funk would have to travel 10 hours. It would take 10 hours to go from Amarillo to Philly, because I don't think there was ever a nonstop flight. You always would have a layover, and it would be a 10-hour travel. And Terry Funk is trying to help ECW grow. when it was still Eastern Championship Wrestling. And one thing that Mick Foley said is that Terry Funk wanted to not only give back, but loved wrestling so much, loved the fans so much, that he was always looking to help bring up wrestlers of tomorrow. And in 1994, September 11th, 1994, in California, this was one of the first tapes, bootleg tapes that I got back in that day. I got this in 1995. There was an event called Aftershock. The two matches that night was Road Warrior Hawk. The two main event matches were Road Warrior Hawk versus, I believe, Dan Severn, and it was Al Snow versus Sabu. This was in California. And the name of the event was called Aftershock 94. And Al Snow, you wouldn't even recognize him. If you remember when he first came into ECW, when he took on Chris Benoit in his debut match, he had no facial hair at all, and he was very, very skinny. That's the Al Snow that you'll see now. But Terry Funk was not even advertised for this. This is in a gymnasium in front of 100 people. Now you think about Terry Funk, 1994, way past his prime, showing up at a gymnasium in front of 100 people. I chopped this down to 5 minutes. When people say that Terry Funk was always middle-aged and crazy, just watch 5 minutes of what happens here. Big shout out to Bob Barnett. Bob Barnett, I don't even want to start giving a little bio on him, but when I used to do the Blackheart Sports Entertainment Hotline in the late 90s and the early 2000s with Matt Zombie, Brian Damage, and Timmy Austin, Bob Barnett's name would always come up. Bob Barnett was at this event. I think he might have maybe even taped some of this, but just gives you an idea of how much Terry Funk gave a shit, not only about the wrestlers coming up, but the fans as well. And then I got something I'm going to show you over here, personal memory, that I'm going to frame it and cherish it. Here we flash back to 1994. Enjoy this. Oh, I actually have an audio one as well. I have an audio clip from WCW that you will appreciate as well. Let's pull up the Terry Funk. Where are you? Where are you? Okay. I think we got it. Where the hell is it? Okay, hold on a second. Sorry about the quick delay. I think I have to reload it. Oh, yeah, okay. Here it is. All right, I got it. All right, enjoy, everybody. You'll appreciate this, I promise you. Just my apologies about the video quality. If I had time to burn it from my VHS copy, it would look 10 times better. But unfortunately, the video quality online was not very good. So check this out.
Throw the manager out of the ring. Dropping the table upright. Good Lord, Terry Funk appearing out of nowhere and slamming him into the table. Terry Funk and Sabu. Mixing it up here. Wait a minute, Sabu going outside. Thrown out. They're battling in the crowd. Funk calling people to move, and you better move. Get in Terry Funk's way. Fans, I caution you, please stay back. And Terry Funk, proven, coming from the double cross wrench, he is double tough, clearing out the last 4 rows of chairs, dropping the chairs hard. Oh. Terry Funk is on fire. Stand back, fans. Terry Funk now going after the manager, Damien. Calling for Al Snow. Oh, and Al Snow nailed Terry Funk on the head, and Terry's not happy. Tougher than shoe leather. Flipping him out. Throwing Al Snow through the chairs. Step back, man. Terry Funk grabbing at anybody. He does not care. Look out, fans. Don't get in. The Funk.
Now, I'm pausing this for a second just to tell you two things. Number one, when they say Damien, that's Damien 666, by the way, for those that know about him. The video I showed you at the beginning of the show where Terry was talking about, being in California and trying to help the guys of tomorrow, that video was recorded about an hour after this. So when you saw how beautiful and genuine and authentic and nice Terry Funk was at the beginning of this episode, this is what happened an hour earlier. And it gets better, my friends.
Don't get in his way. Terry Funk, stand back, man. He's a wild and crazy man. He wasn't even scheduled to be here. And what is he doing now? He's got Sabu. Sabu now. Oh, Terry Funk falling back, landing on his head. Dropping down on the ground, headbutt onto the back of the neck. Terry Funk has had an injured neck in the past, and he's quivering now. He's shaking. Al Snow is hurt. Terry Funk now reaching, it looks like it sounds like a toolbox. What is he doing in there? He's reaching in for God knows what. Al Snow. Are these two allies? There's your answer. As the tools, the nails, the screws come spilling out. Terry Funk clearing a crowd. Al Snow powered on with the box of tools, staple guns, screwdrivers, pliers. Sabu still in the ring. Terry Funk, crazed as always. Don't stand in his way, going after little children. Terry Funk all the way out the door. Appearing out of nowhere, unannounced, unscheduled. Sabu victorious, but look at the carnage that was left behind. Unladdered. My goodness. Terry Funk bringing in a ladder. Using it on Al Snow. Al Snow already with the hurt neck. I'm telling you, fans, don't get in Terry Funk's way. Not many chairs left standing, and the ones that are not usable, that's for sure. Terry Funk lumbering, maniacal, insane. That's the only way you can describe it.
Get him, Bob! Get him! Away from me. I will. Yeah, baby! Stay away. Arnett, get out of here! Arnett, I'm not shitting you one bit. You're goddamn.
Terry Funk does not want to be played.
Get him, baby!
That's not all. Terry Funk being slammed onto another table by Al Snow. Hard punch. Watch out, don't get near him. Hard into the midsection, and Terry gets clobbered onto the right shoulder. Now it's Terry Funk and Al Snow's turn. Terry Funk coming in, possibly to aid Al Snow initially, but now look at what we have. After inadvertently hitting Terry earlier with the chair, we now have two people who seem to hate each other with a vengeance. Hard headbutt, Terry Funk stays. but he's doing the job on Al Snow. Al Snow whipped in. High, back up. Terry Funk has a tuft of hair. Terry Funk hung on the bottom rope. He's got that look, man. He has the look. Stay out of his way. Fans are handing chairs, but they don't know what they're getting into. Terry Funk looking like the whole police force. And the fans stand back for Terry Funk. Don't get near Terry Funk. Break his neck, Terry! Fans are real tough, yelling behind Terry Funk's back. Takes a big man to yell from behind his back. And Al Snow's still going out after him. They go take it outside. Close the door, close the door. Leave him out of here, let him back in.
Keep his ass away from me. Or it hurts the fucking cute. Stupid son of a bitch. You bunch of goddamn idiots, keep him away from me. Or son of a bitch, let him back over here. Stupid son of a bitch. You keep his ass away from me, understand? You keep him away from me. You give me my goddamn hat. Keep your hands to yourself, idiot. I didn't do anything. Open the door! You're still number one, Terry.
I love you, Terry.
Unfucking believable.
Terry, you're a sweet guy.
Still love you, Terry, dude.
You guys, get back. Come on. Go.
100 fans, 90-degree weather. That's when the cameras rolled. There's nobody like it. The guy was doing that in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, periodic appearances in the 2010s. I got that tape in 1995. I was already a funker. I've always brought this up. You've seen my old shirts from my Hotline days in the 90s. My nickname was Funker, the Funker, because Terry Funk, I made it no secret, was always my all-time favorite. When you saw the shirts, you didn't see Anthony, you saw Funker. He just, nobody like him. Now, got a couple of photos I'm going to share with you as well. We did that for Wyndham a little bit earlier. For me, and by the way, I'm wearing a regular t-shirt today because I wasn't going to wear Terry Funk without wearing a Bray Wyatt. And I was not going to change shirts during the show. Since we were paying tribute to both, I'm not going to favor either one and wore a black shirt instead. I have so many Terry Funk memories personally. If you go to my Twitter at DonTonyD, you will see I had the privilege of hanging out with him and Mick Foley in Pennsylvania, ate lunch with them in 1997, I think it was, or 98. I don't remember which year it was when it had to have been 98, I guess, right? When they won the tag team titles in the WWF for a very short period of time. I've talked so many times over the years driving to Connecticut with Lowlife Louie Ramos because Lowlife Louie was going to main event against Terry Funk in Connecticut. Terry Funk broke Louie's front tooth and Louie never fixed it. I don't know if he ever fixed it since, but every time you saw Louie, you're like, what happened to your tooth? Oh, Terry Funk. Why don't you fix it? Are you fucking crazy? Every time I look at my tooth, I know I main evented against Terry Funk. Autograph signings, appearances, hanging out with him and Daphne, God rest both their souls, in Long Island. But the ultimate personal story that I could share with you, and I wish I traveled more, because I would have taken a drive to Texas to visit him once. You know, was I friends with him? No, but you know, friendly enough that he remembered names. I wasn't the only one, but in 1999, I was going to get married. I got into a major car accident. I'm going to share a story. I think everybody, and I have proof. I'm going to show you. My wife at the time, marriage didn't work out, got it annulled from the church. We were only married for a very short period of time. She lost her noodles. Long story, another day. But she knew nothing about wrestling. She knew zero about wrestling. She knew that Terry Funk was my favorite wrestler of all time. She wrote to Terry Funk and told Terry Funk that I was involved in this awful car accident and that he keeps mentioning your name and this and that. And, you know, we're going to get married, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, if you could send him an autograph photo, I think it would be a cool surprise for him. I got autograph photos. I got autograph shirts, which I showed on this show already. I didn't take them out for today. I wanted to be a little even with Bray Wyatt. I didn't want to make this, you know, heavily favored one way or the other. He sent me autograph shirts. He sent me a branding iron. I got this crazy box. I didn't even know I was getting this. And it was a branding iron shirts, autograph shirts, photos. I still have everything, but the coolest things is this. I had a road rage incident coming home from Philly. Now, I know Terry Funk uses the jail term a lot when he talks to people, but you could ask Rob Feinstein, because I was on our video doing part of that interview, getting to ask Terry Funk a question, and coming home from Philly, I got into a road rage incident. And cops were called. My ex was ripping the hair out of a girl and this and that, and you know, it was a mess. So when I thanked him for everything, he sends me this in the mail. Had a great time with you in Philly. This is not a photo. This is a piece of paper. Did you ever see this on sale? No. He sent me a printout, like a color printout. But along with it, I don't have the other pages inside. I don't know if you could see that. So he wrote me a letter about family and marriage. And why is that so extra special now? You're starting to hear how much he cared for his wife, Vicky. And, you know, back when Terry Funk was NWA champion, he had issues in his marriage. Now, I don't know the full story. I don't know if she accused him of cheating or maybe just, you know, the time away. But Terry Funk ended up dropping the NWA championship, I think, to Harley Race, and then went home and fixed his marriage to Vicky. And it was no turning back. They adored each other. When she passed a few years ago, you know, a lot of people were concerned because, you know, you always hear like sometimes when someone's spouse passes away, that's their whole life. And the spouse passes away, and then not too long after the other spouse passes away, because their life is just a complete void. It's empty. Now, you know, Terry Funk was battling dementia. Terry Funk was battling a lot of physical issues. You know, he was in an assisted facility for quite some time, as you know. He ended up getting very frail. We showed the picture not too long ago that broke my heart on this show, that you knew you knew that Terry Funk's time was short. Mick Foley visited him as much as he could possibly do. And Terry Funk and Mick Foley were like this. When you think about the fact that he was starting in the ring in 1965, which is, 58 years ago? I wasn't alive. I'm sure almost none of you were even alive. And then when he wins the heavyweight championship in 1975, his dad, Dory Funk Sr., died in the ring in 1973. And then Terry Funk and Dory Funk made history. The first brothers to hold the NWA heavyweight championship. Not at the same time, obviously. But remember, I got another audio clip for you that you'll appreciate. I'll show it to you in a moment, but I wanted to show you a couple of pictures first for Terry Funk, just to show a few pictures. This is just a quick overview. That's Terry on the left. This has got to be, 1971 around? That's him, Dory Funk Sr., Dory Funk Jr. That is the Funk family. We continue on. There is Terry Funk and his brother Dory Funk Jr. in the 70s. There's Terry Funk is the NWA heavyweight champion. That is him with his wife and his two daughters in 1980. It's funny how everybody always thought that at that time, I mean, I didn't follow this at the time. I learned years later that people thought that the daughters were going to somehow get involved with wrestling and be like the female version of the Von Erichs. Did not happen. Dory Funk Jr. is older than Terry Funk. Listen, you got to keep Dory Funk Jr. in your prayers because, he is really up there in age as well. A lot of people don't realize that Dory Funk Jr. is older. Dory Funk Jr. is 82 right now. He's going to be 83 in February. But just continuing on with some photos, and I just grabbed some that I think you would get a kick out of. When Cody Rhodes cut the promo on SmackDown, that is a true story, everyone. Dusty and Terry Funk were feuding. And long story short, they were in an airport. I think it might have been Florida. I'm not sure if it was Florida, but they were in an airport. And they were on one of those trams, those trains. They have them in Disney also. Like the monorail, the single monorails, and People Mover. That's what it's called. And Cody Rhodes, as a 10-year-old or 11-year-old, is on this train with Dusty Rhodes, the People Mover, and they're on one side waiting for the train with their family. And on the other side, someone starts yelling out that Dusty sucks eggs. And Cody, as a kid, doesn't know who it is, what it is, thinks it's just an asshole fan. And just to remain in character was Terry Funk on the opposite side of the rail. Sees Dusty and starts yelling out, "Dusty sucks eggs." I mean, how awesome is that? How awesome is that? And that is a picture from their feud, and Dusty is wearing the shirt. Over the years, some wrestlers have worn shirts in tribute to that time. I think MJF wore a shirt recently. Didn't he have a shirt, "I beat Cody," or something like that? That shirt is actually a little tribute to this. Roddy Piper used to do shirts that were in tribute to this. So that is a screenshot from Dusty feuding with Terry Funk. That is from the WWF, 1986-ish, around there. And, obviously Dory didn't come in as Dory. I think actually when he first came in, they did call him Dory Funk Jr., but then they called him Haas Funk. And they were the Funk brothers, managed by Jimmy Hart. Terry Funk would end up leaving, and Dory stood. And because Terry Funk left, they didn't want Dory Funk Jr., Haas Funk, to be a singles star. So they had, what was it, Jimmy Jam Funk? Jimmy Jack Funk. Yeah, Jimmy. I'm thinking of Jimmy Jam Garvin. Jimmy Jack Funk. And they tried to make him like wild and crazy Funk brother. It didn't really work. I mean, it wasn't nowhere near the level of Terry Funk, but, you know, they tried. But Terry Funk in the WWF at that time, when he beat the crap out of Mel Phillips, I mean, just keep in mind, he's already my favorite. Now he's showing up in the WWF, and I'm finally getting to see him for the first time in WWF TV, and he beats the crap out of Mel Phillips. That you know his history. We don't have to use the P word on this show, but Mel Phillips disappeared off the face of the earth, by the way. That is when Terry Funk showed up. He was doing a little bit of the announcer duties in WCW, NWA 1989. A lot of people wanted to see him back in the ring. He was not exactly ready yet. You might remember, I think 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how I wish they would have done something similar with Thunder Rosa on Collision. Let her be an on-air character announcing and have some heel women wrestlers like teaser and bait her. Like, why don't you get in the ring? Why don't you hit me? Like, just to keep her on TV. Terry Funk finally turns on Ric Flair and not only pile drives him on a table on the outside of the ring in 89, which was literally unheard of, but a lot of people probably don't even know the shopping bag incident when he took a garbage bag and put it over the head of Ric Flair. Standards and practices flipped out. Terry Funk just nuts. When the cameras were going, Terry Funk, and listen, I noticed some super chats came in, and I'm going to bring them up along with some of your comments as well. But believe me, when I was sitting at the announcer's table in XPW when Terry Funk took on Shane Douglas, you know, I don't have the video here, but I'll share it in an upcoming episode. If you watch the very beginning, Terry Funk threw a chair at me. And that shit's scary. I mean, he knew his accuracy. He wasn't trying to hit me with it, but when the cameras were rolling, Terry Funk made you believe that his attitude, insanity, was 100% authentic. And the worst thing you could ever do as a camera guy, an extra, a fan, the worst thing you could do is laugh at it and act like, oh, that's just Terry in character. He will fucking pop you for real. You had to literally run out of the way. That's why when I showed you that footage earlier, it sums up pretty much the realism of Terry Funk. And Terry Funk acted the way you and I would have done. If you're trying to hide from someone that's going to beat your ass, you hide under a van. And then he starts walking down the block. Imagine if you live on that block and Terry Funk is just walking down the block like nothing. I mean, that's just epic to epic proportions. And that video's from 30 years ago. The infamous I Quit match, Ric Flair and Terry Funk. Probably, yeah, easy my top 5 favorite Terry Funk matches of all time. That feud with Ric Flair was amazing. Everything was so believable. And Ric Flair didn't like some of the antics of Terry Funk. They didn't like some of the things Terry Funk was saying, the garbage bag over the head. But Terry Funk wanted to make it as real as it gets. See the screenshot? See the screenshot? That is from Slamboree, I think 1994. I'm going to share with you 5 minutes of that audio in a few moments, because that is the audio that I have said for years and years and years. If you ever fantasized Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gordon Soley calling a match in ECW, it doesn't get any closer than this. This was Slamboree 1994 WCW in Philly, and this was very, very early in ECW's, tenure. So no one, for the most part, knew. Yeah, Straw Hat Guy was at WCW Slamboree. Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer. You know, everybody talks about the relationship of Terry Funk and Mick Foley, but the relationship of Tommy Dreamer and Terry Funk should not be undercut. They had a beautiful, beautiful friendship, and Terry Funk did so much to get Terry Funk on the map in ECW. November to Remember 1995, Raven and Cactus Jack versus Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer is one of my favorite Terry Funk matches of all time. That was way early when wrestlers used random weapons. They used a VCR in that match. They used tables, cheese graters, chairs. I mean, everybody remembers what New Jack used to dump in the ring. You got to go out of your way and watch the uncensored match of November to Remember 1995, Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer versus Raven and Cactus Jack. It's a match that probably 95% of you out there have never watched before, but if you did, you would appreciate it. This is the worst match that I ever saw of Terry Funk. And I don't mean worse in quality, I mean just gory. That was the Born to Be Wired match from 1997. A lot of people forget that Sabu won the heavyweight championship that night. Terry Funk and Sabu just, I remember showing it to a girl once that I was dating who was not a wrestling fan, and she was just watching in disbelief this match, the barbed wire match. But the XPW stuff, that it was that much more brutal because I was at the commentator's table. His feud with Cactus Jack, not only in ECW, but also in Japan, IWA, FMW, King of the Death match. I mean, the brawls that they had. You know, if you want a really fun moment in ECW that a lot of people aren't aware of, look up Funk in a Box. That's when Terry Funk made a surprise return in ECW and beat the shit out of Cactus Jack. Anybody remember my New Jack in the Box story? That I was going to have New Jack come out of a giant gift box and beat the crap out of Lowlife Louie on a USA Pro show that I was involved in. That idea came from Terry Funk making his ECW return. It was called Funk in a Box, and I was going to do New Jack in a Box as a tribute to Terry Funk. Never happened, though. Somebody screwed it up. You know the story. There's Chainsaw Charlie in the WWF. I was there when he showed up on the stage as Chainsaw Charlie when they were in New York. That was his idea, by the way. A lot of people may not know that. That was his idea, to do a little Chainsaw Charlie gimmick. But obviously his matches in WWF, there you go, Chainsaw Charlie. Then they finally acknowledged him again as Terry Funk. And then we had the WCW Insanity. Another one of my favorite matches of all time. If you've never seen it, it is a hardcore match. Terry Funk versus Chris Candido, WCW Monday Nitro. They're brawling for the hardcore title on a ranch. And a horse kicks Terry Funk. They go in a horse's barn, and on Nitro Live, a horse back kicks Terry Funk. You have to go out of your way to watch this match in its entirety. It is a match that, I'm telling you, you will not regret watching this match. Monday Nitro, Terry Funk versus Chris Candido. When they showed up in the truck with all the weapons, horse manure, they really used horse manure that night. This was, listen, we showed earlier the worst moment probably in Bray Wyatt's career as The Fiend with Goldberg in Saudi Arabia. For me, this is one of the down moments. Eric Bischoff beat Terry Funk for the hardcore title in WCW. That is Terry Funk hitting Eric Bischoff with a garbage can. Just figured I'd share that. But an underestimated feud in WCW, believe it or not, him against Screaming Norman Smiley. If you want to see fun, you got to watch this. His match against Screaming Norman Smiley, they had a series of matches, but that night was pretty fucking funny, man. I would love to share it, but I would get hit with copyright issues. There's Terry Funk in the WWE Hall of Fame. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Terry Funk. 79 years old, man. You know, you never want to see your favorites go, obviously, but I hope to live to 70. He got to live to 79. You know, you don't ever want to see your favorites go. You know, and the one thing that I will say about Terry Funk, and this is why I honestly believe he's the greatest of all time, his suspension of disbelief. You know, you could say Ric Flair is the greatest of all time. You could say Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, whoever you want to say, Kurt Angle. The thing about Terry Funk is that everything that he did in the 70s, in the 80s, what I showed you earlier, when the camera was rolling, he wanted everybody to believe that anything he was doing was real. And even if it was wrestling moves, still, you look even when he was in the WWF in 1986, and he would tease going into the crowd and punching people in the face, and people started shitting their pants. He was so insistent on having that reality aspect of wrestling that you truly thought the guy was insane. And the video I showed you earlier, I thought that was so important to show, because here's one moment that he's insane, brawling in the crowd, outside, acting like a maniac, and an hour later, he's humble, sitting in a chair, talking about how, you know, he wants to help some of the people of tomorrow that, you know, may not get a break in the big companies. You know, remember, this is 1994. WCW is still around. ECW is not even gone on the map yet, and WWF was doing their thing, cartoon era. So, plus he cared about his fans. I mean, it's mind-boggling to think that fans would show up at the Double Cross Ranch, and he'd be there, you know, taking care of the ranch or on his horse, or he's with his family, and then a couple of people would show up. You know, Terry, did I get you at a bad time? No, have a seat. And he'd fucking hang out with fans. The guy loved wrestling. That's why I call him the greatest of all time. Ric Flair, I don't want to criticize the guy at all, but I remember we said he wanted to say hello to everyone when it was time to say goodbye. Terry Funk, didn't matter if there was 100 people in attendance or 10,000 people in attendance. He was going to give you 200%. And he cared about the stars of tomorrow. He cared about the indie guys that are just trying to get a break. He cared about the fans. He cared about what he did. He never wanted to embarrass himself out there. And you see his championship history. I'm looking at his wiki right now. NWA World Heavyweight Championship, CWA World Heavyweight Championship, the World Wrestling Council Heavyweight Championship. Obviously, you know, WWF tag titles. You think about everything he did in Japan. ECW. The amount of work he put into ECW to get it off the ground. Like I said, outside of Paul Heyman, Todd Gordon early on as well. But the reason why Terry Funk was even more important was because Todd Gordon was not wrestling. Paul Heyman was not wrestling. Terry Funk was the one wrestling. So Terry Funk would want to put people over, would want to team up with people, would want people to be almost his protege. You know, the night the line was crossed, You think about the three-way dance with him versus Sabu versus Shane Douglas, and they redid that at Hardcore Homecoming. Terry Funk, honestly, for wrestling fans, was the reason why ECW went as far as it did. And it's not even close. It's not even close. I could talk for hours about the guy, but I'm not. But for any of you out there that ever enjoyed ECW, or you loved Bobby Heenan, or you loved Terry Funk, Tully Blanchard, Gordon Soley, we always fantasize. Could you imagine Edge in AEW teaming up with Christian? Could you imagine if MJF goes to the WWE? I'm talking about today. Imagine if Shawn Michaels jumped to WCW back in the day. Imagine if The Undertaker was out. We always fantasize. Oh, could you imagine, Michael Cole calling a match here or this or whatever you want to fantasize. I always fantasized how old school announcers would have handled calling an ECW hardcore match. And the closest I ever came to it was Slamboree 1994, Terry Funk versus Tully Blanchard. Now, I'm only going to share with you about 5 minutes of it. Take too long to play the whole thing. It's on my history episode if you want to check it out. But the reason why I love the audio and not the video is because it forces you to close your eyes and envision what you're watching. And because you're not watching the match, you could literally pretend that this is happening in the ECW arena. So if you want to fantasize for a couple of minutes, I want you to pretend. I want you to pretend that what you are hearing right now is in the ECW arena. Terry Funk versus Tully Blanchard. And Tully Blanchard did wrestle in ECW for a little while, by the way. But the difference is no Joey Styles, no Joel Gertner, no Cyrus. No, here you got Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gordon Soley. Here's a snippet from that match.
All right. Terry Funk making his way into the ring, as you can see. This is Gordon Soley alongside Bobby the Brain Heenan. We'll be bringing you the action in the next few minutes in this match.
Where's he going now, Gordon?
Who only knows? He's going out to high-five somebody.
Is everyone from Texas nuts? Or are we just lucky to see the ones we do?
Well, he's an unusual character, no question about that. A lot of people say that his elevator doesn't stop at every floor. But he says something else.
Well, he's a couple of fries short of Happy Meal.
Yeah, he's hardcore. They're coming out here on the outside and they're battling it out. And it is Tully Blanchard and Terry Funk battling it out right here next to our table. Tully Blanchard is down and now the bell is rung and this match is, quote, officially underway. But they are really swinging it out now. They're duking out for all it's worth.
This goes back a long way through their families. They're both from Texas. One's from one end of Texas, one's from the other. They're both from proud families. And they're not going to back up one bit.
No, that's a fact. Both of them are second-generation competitors. Joe Blanchard, of course.
By the way, you know what's awesome about this clip also? They tell you the history. A little bit of history. You learn a lot about these guys in this match, believe it or not. Now, like I said, we're only sharing about 5 minutes of it, but you do learn a little bit of history about these guys as well. So again, just imagine this is happening in ECW. And when you think about, with all due respect, the SmackDown match with the Street Profits versus the Brawling Brutes, Terry Funk hardcore match, I think this kind of blows it out of the doors.
Swinging it out now. They're duking out for all it's worth.
This goes back a long way through their families. They're both from Texas. One's from one end of Texas, one's from the other. They're both from proud families. And they're not going to back up one bit.
No, that's a fact. Both of them are second-generation competitors. Joe Blanchard, of course, the father of Tully Blanchard, and the late Dory Funk Sr., the king of the Texas death matches, was the man who sired both Dory Funk Jr. and Terry Funk. A pair of crutches grabbed from somebody at ringside, thrown back inside. He's got him all the way up. Is that going to be an atomic knee drop? We'll find out. It is. Tully Blanchard driven into the steel guardrails surrounding the ring.
Boy, a psychiatrist would have a feast with Funk, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I would certainly buy that. He'd have a field day. I was in Miami in '75 when Terry Funk won the World Heavyweight Championship from Jack Briscoe. Neckbreaker by Terry Funk has...
and that was no easy job, winning the title from Jack Briscoe.
No, it wasn't.
And you imagine this, Dory Funk Sr., both his children became world champions. I mean, that don't happen often.
It's the only time in the history of wrestling that two brothers have ended up having the world championship.
You know, most people say, well, they must be like brothers, the Blanchards and the Funks. They're both from Texas. But Texas people, they hate each other. You know, they're all for themselves. Something in the water.
You son of a bitch!
Well, it has bred some of the greatest rivalry in the world, and Tully Blanchard just knocked right off the rampway coming to the ring. That's about a 4.5-foot drop. And now Terry Funk has ripped out part of the side paneling. Referee Nick Patrick trying to take it away from him. Well, Terry Funk's going to find himself... Ooh! Tully Blanchard caught right across the top of the head by Terry Funk. And Funk now has that piece of molding inside.
You know, he should work for Rooms to Go. He loves to rearrange furniture.
Bringing him up for a pile driver.
As only the Funks can do it.
He is on a different planet right now.
I think he spent too many days out in that barn in that hot weather.
Well, you know, Terry Funk has always had that complete devil-may-care attitude. He has been a wild man.
And his brother is real passive. Real dangerous.
Yeah, very
methodical.
Gentlemen, I'm getting in the ring and starting a double count. You both better get back in the ring right now.
There's the comments now from Nick Patrick, the referee. Here's a young fellow who had quite a wrestling career going for him until he blew out a knee, and that took him out of competition. He stays next to the sport now by being an outstanding referee. He is our senior official with WCW. Headbutt by Terry Funk has Tully Blanchard back to the canvas once again.
The last thing Blanchard wants is to go tell his dad he got beaten by a Funk. And the last thing Terry wants to do is go tell his brother that a Blanchard beat him. So there's a lot more at this, Gordon, than just a match to see who can out-wrestle a man or pin a man. There's a lot at stake here.
Yeah, there is family pride for one sure. Another pile driver now by Terry Funk on Tully Blanchard.
You can't prepare to wrestle Terry Funk because you don't know what he's going to do, because he don't know what he's going to do. That's why he was so dangerous when he was the world champion.
He's as dangerous as a tornado, a moonsault. Tully Blanchard just got out of the way in time, just barely rolled out of the way.
And the people are standing here in Philadelphia.
All right. Very old school, but a hell of a lot of fun. Just to give you an idea, we're going to start bringing this home, everybody. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, feud of the year, 1989 against Ric Flair. Most inspirational wrestler of the year, 1997. Wrestler of the year, 1976. In the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame as well. In alphabetical order for All Japan Pro Wrestling, he won the World's Strongest Tag Determination League with Dory Funk Jr., captured the Champion Carnival Distinguished Service Award, won actually the Tag Determination League Technical Award with Dory Funk Jr. in 1977, 1980, 1986, and 1987, 1984 as well. In Championship Wrestling from Florida, he was the heavyweight champion one time, tag team championship twice with his brother Dory Funk Jr., the TV champion one time, North American tag team champion with his brother one time, Southern heavyweight champion twice, NWA Florida TV champion, won that tournament in 1971 and won the championship tournament in 1979. He was the ECW heavyweight champion twice, the TV champion one time. He won the NWA Georgia tag team titles once with Dory Funk Jr. He also won the TV title, and he won the tag team tournament for the championship in 1978. He's in the George Tragos Luthez Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. For Jim Crockett Promotions, WCW, he was the United States champion twice, hardcore champion 3 times. The United States champion won that tournament in 75, and he was put in the Hall of Fame in 1995. Juggalo Championship Wrestling, he was a heavyweight champion there once. NWA Hall of Fame, class of 09, heavyweight champion one time. NWA Brass Knuckles champion one time. NWA Hollywood, he was a champion there. Propane Pro Wrestling, 3PW. You might remember that here in the Northeast. Southwest Championship Wrestling champion one time. Tag champ with his brother Dory. Stampede Wrestling was put in the Hall of Fame in 1995. USWA heavyweight champion one time. For the WWF, he was a tag team champion one time with Cactus Jack, put in the Hall of Fame in 09. Western States, he was the NWA Brass Knucks champion, international tag champ, Western States champion. And we didn't even talk about his accolades in Japan. That's a whole another edition. But in case you're asking yourself if he ever won any awards in the Wrestling Observer, well, since I see it, I might as well give it to you. Interesting thing about it is it seems like he only won awards for the Observer for 1 year. And he was also put in the Hall of Fame for the Observer in 1996. Can you guess what year? Think of his greatest feud of all time, which is probably against Ric Flair. So if you're thinking 1989, you are absolutely correct, because in 1989, Dave Meltzer gave Terry Funk Best Brawler, Best Heel, Best on Interviews, Hardest Worker, Feud of the Year, all given to Terry Funk. Feud of the Year, Ric Flair won it as well. So pretty sucky 48 hours for yours truly. Again, my favorite wrestler of all time, Terry Funk. And my favorite wrestler of today. I have to make that perfect. Otherwise, yeah. My 2 favorite wrestlers. One current, one of all time. Both pass away in 48 hours. My condolences to the family, the friends, the fans of Wyndham Rotunda and Terry Funk. You know, just thoughts with Terry Funk's daughters, his good friends, wrestlers, fans. I know a lot of you out there adored him as well. Bray Wyatt, I mean, obviously Bray Wyatt is of this generation. So it's hurts a little bit more for a lot of people. I got to be totally honest with you. Terry Funk's is sad, but 79, that's, he lived a full life. Bray Wyatt, though, the last time that I felt like this was when Eddie Guerrero passed away. And Eddie Guerrero was not that much older. Eddie Guerrero was 38 years old. So Eddie Guerrero was about 2 years older than Bray Wyatt, you know, and it's a different set of circumstances because Eddie, you know, he was on TV up until the end. You know, you didn't hear about any health issues. Visibly, you were concerned. I mean, let's not, you know, beat around the bush here. You saw Eddie's body transform in the latter stages of WCW, and you say to yourself, my God. I remember Cybergenics at that time, but Cybergenics didn't do that. So you always were a little concerned, but, you know, Eddie was in such great shape and in good health and wasn't, you know, like, you remember when Davey Boy Smith blew up? Remember when Davey Boy Smith blew up when he first went to WCW, like in the early 90s? You know, I know I did. We were concerned. We were like, that just doesn't look healthy. You know, but with Bray Wyatt, though, man, you know, to fight and fight and fight and try to get back. And not only the physical aspect, just, this is why I always say this. And then I'll get into some shout outs. You know, at the end of the day, the people we watch on TV are human beings. Yes, you have to develop thick skin. You will not survive being a star or being with any strong following if you cannot handle the criticisms. You have to develop thick skin. Me, as a nobody, even just dealing with the shit when I was doing crappy indie stuff or even podcasting, you got to develop thick skin. You have to let things brush off like water off a duck's back. You have to develop that. But it still hurts. You know, when you see, I remember when Lana was crying. And I remember, you know, like some of the biggest assholes on the net saying like, oh, she makes millions of dollars. You know, you could handle it. No, not everybody could handle it. Some of our most beloved people, not even in wrestling, just in entertainment and beyond, have passed on due to their own, you know, in their own actions. Let's say it like that. We can't use the S word. Because they're unhappy, you know, and just imagine Bray Wyatt, who did have, you know, a lot of emotional issues. Imagine just reading for the last 6 months what was going on online and knowing in the back of your mind, I'm working my fucking ass off to get back. He remembers how that felt in 2022 when I played the clip earlier. You know, he found the love of his life, beautiful family, beautiful. And I'm not just talking about JoJo and his kids. I'm talking about his, you know, extended family, his father, his uncles. And he had a great inner circle of family and friends. And he's fighting and fighting and fighting to get back. And I'm not going to criticize the people online. There were a lot of people online that had no idea. They didn't know about Keith Lee. They didn't know about him. They didn't. You know, a lot of people just speculated. And just imagine trying to come back and reading all that incorrect information online. It's got to get to you, man. It just sucks that he never got that comeback, you know, to repair even what happened with LA Knight and the disappointment of the Uncle Howdy, you know, and that whole storyline with the white rabbits and the QR codes. And then, oh, WWE wants to bring back the Fiend. They want to bring it. And you realize now that, he just was not well. And he was taken away, 36 years old. Damn. All right. I want to give some shout outs. The Cake. The Cake is in the house. He takes the cake. Thank you for the 5 spot. He says, between Daphne, Jay Briscoe, Brody Lee, and now Bray Wyatt, man, I'm not sure I can handle another one. Also, rest in peace, Bernie Morrison. Why does Bernie Morrison ring a bell? Could someone in the chat, please, you don't have to super chat this, everyone, but could someone enlighten me on Bernie Marston? Why does that name sound so familiar? I don't think that's Bob Barker's real name. Why does that name sound familiar? But, he's from Whitesnake. Yes. I did see it on my alerts that someone in a band passed away like a day or two ago. Whitesnake. Listen, some point we're all going to go, man. And you just hope it doesn't happen for a very, very, very... It's Bob Barker, 99 years old. Crazy. You imagine living to 99, man? And he stood active too. But yeah, look, Daphne is rough. Jay Briscoe, awful. That's why guys just driving down the street with his kids. You can't make sense out of it. You know, I totally understood why so many people thought drinking and driving. Oh, the other driver must have been under the influence. How does somebody just crash into somebody head on like that? Shit happens. And it happens when would you have ever thought that would happen? I was watching Shane Douglas the other day talking about Tammy Sitch, who pleaded no contest recently. We talked about that. And, he made a comment that, kept my attention, made me think about it, that he's surprised that more people in wrestling, especially back in the day, didn't have fatal accidents. We know about Adrian Adonis, he wasn't even behind the wheel. And about Joey Morella and some others. But, you just look back and you think, especially if people would just have some beers and go down the road and this and that, whatever. And, it's kind of surprising that there weren't more. But, with Jay Briscoe, though, there was no alcohol. There was no drugs. There was no fleeing from police. There was no unlicensed person. It's just freak accident. Crazy, man. Crazy. Thank you, Cake. Rizzo. What's up, Rizzo? Thank you for the 5 spices. DT in the chat. I was more of a WWF/E fan, so I never saw Terry Funk until he came to the WWE during ECW One Night Stand. Any matches that you all could recommend? Like I said earlier, if you want to see some good ECW fun stuff, the match I said earlier, him versus teaming up with Tommy Dreamer versus Cactus and Raven. Terry Funk's whole feud in ECW, it's a merit, and I'm not throwing shots at Japan, but what makes the ECW run, the feud with Cactus, so memorable is because it happened in the United States. So the commentators are speaking in English. I don't understand Japanese much. So you could watch Japanese matches, but it's different when you don't even understand like what the announcer's saying. Yes, there's subtitles, but you got Joey Styles doing commentary. You got an insanely rabid ECW audience there. And then if you want to go a little bit further, his feud with Ric Flair in '89, just stop there. That will consume you for a good amount of time. His stuff in Memphis, with Jerry Lawler, feuding with Jerry Lawler, understand that a lot of it was not recorded. The empty arena is fun, especially if you could get your hands on the uncensored version of it. But, if you really take a step back, it's not very good. But it was unique at the time, because you didn't do things like that. There is a lot of good shit with Terry Funk. But if you want to see Terry Funk at his finest, you're probably going to have to settle for late 80s. You could watch 70s, but, it's not the Terry Funk that we all know. It's an earlier version of him, and he was great. If you want to see what led to what Terry Funk ended up being, you could check out the 70s. So, okay. Let's move on. Rizzo also says he was praying Triple H's account got hacked and it was some sick joke, but it wasn't. Still doesn't feel real about Bray Wyatt. I agree, man. Like I said, I was Thursday, and it's on my Twitter, you could see it. Thursday, I bought a cake. My mom's 75th birthday is Monday. I bought a cake, and I said, I don't want to wait till Monday. Just wanted to spend some quality time on Thursday with my mom. My dad also, but so I bought the cake, brought a gift over, and I usually stay by my parents' house every Thursday night. That is my time with them. And just something about wanting to spend a little extra time. And then I said to my mom, I said, Mom, I'm going to go downstairs. I got to check my emails. And as I'm going through my emails, I hear my cell phone message thing, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, who the fuck is blowing up my phone? I mean, could be my wife. She was working. But I look at my phone and I see OMG, capital letters. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I see Bray Wyatt, RIP. And I'm not going to say who the person was that texted me, but I was like, no, it can't be. And I look online and the first thing I see is Triple H's post on Twitter. And I'm like, oh, it can't be. And then, like I said, the first thing I thought about was Keith Lee. And I'm like, motherfucker. Like, you wanted to see the same outcome like Keith Lee, that he gets back. And then Sean Ross Sapp. I know a lot of you don't like Sean Ross Sapp, but I have to make this comment. Several months ago, we talked about Bray not being in the best of health. And a lot of people knew that he had COVID at some point. We didn't know exactly when, but we knew he had COVID and he had some complications. But we never talked about it publicly on the show. And like I said, if you go back, I don't remember which episode it was, and you look at the transcript, the chat, you'll see a bunch of you out there saying, I bet you he had COVID. Bet you he had COVID. Bet you had COVID. And I think I remember saying at the time, like, look, guys, I'm not going to say what, it would be being told it likely is, but, you're not far off. Because you don't want to overstep family. If they want you to know, they'll tell you. Sean Ross Sapp knew that he died because of a heart attack, complications, from COVID from a while back. The family told him you could make it public. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been made public. So I appreciate the fact that, even with family, like we talked about that recently. I don't remember who passed recently. There was something with someone recently, and I remember saying, like, look, out of respect for the family, if they don't bring it up, I'm not bringing it up. If they don't make it public, I'm not making it public. Even, if you go, even with personal issues, you remember back with Riddle, there were a few things when I interviewed his girlfriend and they're about to have a kid, it's like, if he doesn't want that public, I'm not going to make it public. So, I'm glad that we know. And if I compare it to anything, and you probably haven't even thought about this until now, but I'm going to bring it out because it'll definitely be like, oh shit, yeah. This is the reverse of Brody Lee. This is the reverse of Brody Lee. Remember when Brody Lee passed early? You remember at that time? COVID. How does somebody that young, big man die like that? And people didn't know. And then you had whoever it was from the Torch. We're entitled to the answer. No, you're not. If the family don't want you to know, it's none of our business. Family ultimately revealed what happened with Brody. And I think that's something that you got to think about also. Brody was taken from us way too soon. And you see the larger-than-life person. That's why I wanted to show you the Bray Wyatt video with the little kid. Yeah, Bray was 325 pounds. Yeah, he knew that he was, wasn't healthy, and that was before, obviously, all of this. But you see Luke Harper, Brody Lee in the ring, this presence. You see Bray Wyatt in the ring, this presence. And then they're gone. And in the 30s, pretty much. I mean, you're like, how? Why? It's the opposite. That's why I'm grateful the family put it out there. Because listen, I'm not, like I said, I'm not throwing any shade to anybody today. But I can understand why some people really wanted to know about Brody Lee's passing. How does someone that young die? How does that happen? Unless you're abusing something or, something else. So, of course, you want to know or understand it because it shouldn't have happened. I'm glad we didn't get any of that with Bray Wyatt. Because I know early on, I know who you are. And I do not criticize you at all. Some of you went on my YouTube 2 days ago. And when you first heard about Bray, some of you posted what you thought was the reason why he passed. And they were wrong. I mean, that's why I hate when speculating. Me. Because some people wrote the S word. Some people wrote other things. And I'm glad we found out almost immediately. I did not want a repeat of Brody Lee's death. Oof. No. Thank you, Rizzo. Chris M., thank you for the 2-spot. Funhouse, Firefly Funhouse, what John Cena was his favorite Bray match. It was cool, man. That WrestleMania shit with John Cena. Like I said, the DTKC show WrestleMania recap is still online from that time. Kevin and I had a fun little debate. Which one was our favorite, AJ and Undertaker or John Cena Bray? And we were split. Neither one of us are right and neither one of us are wrong. But for me, I know there's a lot of you out there that love the 5-star matches. I know there are a lot of you out there that love the high-flying stuff. Perfectly cool with that. For me, psychology is number one. Creativity is number one. You could do an insane move and blow me away, but psychology and creativity are number one. For me, it's always been that way. Even in my horrible indie wrestle crap stuff that I have done, one thing, if you ever seen any of it, you will see that I always try to be creative and think outside the box. Not just do something for the sake of doing it, but try to be a little creative. Try to do a little bit different. Have those little intricate details. That's why I say Terry Funk is the greatest of all time. Ric Flair may have been a smoother wrestler, but when you think of Terry and how he treated his fans and how he was looking out for people to trying to get a break in wrestling and giving back and doing what he did in front of 100 people, imagine what that gym smelled like that day. Could you imagine the level of armpit in that California gym? 90-degree heat in there. You think it smelled like cologne? Do you think it smelled like Arid? It probably smelled like sweat and armpit and stench. Terry just, But Bray Wyatt, can we say the most creative wrestler in the last 20 years? Is it safe for us to say that? The most creative wrestler in the last 20 years? Just going from, and I don't mean to say it like this, going from Husky Harris, believe me, I'm Husky Harris, to go from Husky Harris to Axel Mulligan, to Bray Wyatt, and I know we're leaving out some others, but to go to that and understand that that's all him. That's all him. You don't just wake up one day, shit, let me try a Cape Fear thing. Let me throw shit on the wall and see if it sticks. Run DMG says Kurt Cobain level of creative genius for wrestling. That's not bad. That's not bad. Understand, too, this is the WWE machine. So, you know, if this was Attitude Era, if this was a different promotion where he could even go to the next level, it may have been even wilder. You know, so he had to do this creativity within the confines of WWE, standards and practices, advertisers, publicly traded company. That is not easy to do. You know, we've always said that about MJF. If you could call somebody's mom a crack whore on TV, yeah, you're going to get some major heat over that. You can't do that in WWE. You know, so, and it's not a criticism on MJF. I'm just saying, like, when you're under the WWE machine, you know, there's a lot of, believe me, there's a lot of wrestlers there that say, oh, I have this awesome idea. You can't do that. Oh, what if I did this? Are you crazy? Can't do that. Publicly traded company. The network wouldn't allow that. That's why I kind of give the hardcore match yesterday with the Street Profits and the Brawling Brutes a little bit of a pass, because this is regular Fox television. And obviously they don't want to see like real hardcore stuff. But then again, we have seen some more violent stuff happen on Fox over the last couple of years with the Bloodline, with Brock, with others. I'm talking about a couple of years ago. You know, there's been moments that have involved tables, you know, not just one, and some chairs and some Singapore canes and so, but I give it a little bit of a pass because of standards. Athletic Gamer, thank you for the 5 spot. My brother told me about Bray. Saw of all the things online and legit cried. God bless Bray, and heart goes out to his family. Much love to Terry as well. You know, I cried when I heard about Terry Funk, because I thought of my dad and I thought of my mom, and I'm like, you know that day's coming. You just don't know when. And when we showed that picture of Terry Funk about a month ago, you know. You don't hang out in an assisted living facility simply because, you know, you can't like clean up your own shit. You know, it was a lot deeper than that. And you saw how frail he became. He's reunited with Vicky. He's probably branding Dusty's ass right now. He's probably, you know, just jumping off, doing a moonsault off the pearly gates. And then you get Bray Wyatt on top of it. And it's like, you know, what a double whammy, man. What a double fucking whammy. It sucks. But I say this to all of you out there. The beauty about Bray Wyatt is that footage ain't going nowhere. We have, you know, like Ricky Starks' intro, what does he say? The revolution will be televised. Something like that. Bray Wyatt's career was televised. So you can always pop that video in, download, upload, stream, and enjoy. A lot of Terry Funk stuff, especially the early stuff, we'll never get to see. And the people that do upload it, upload horrible quality. Horrible. So at least you get to, and the video games, they can never take that away, man. You got the memories. Rizzo, thank you, Rizzo, for the 20 spot. Rizzo thought the same about Keith Lee. Felt like a piece of crap criticizing him. he felt like a piece of crap criticizing him. WWE and AEW for how they used or using him. But then the story comes out about how close Keith Lee came to dying, and it explains a lot. Listen, I want to make this clear. You do not deserve any criticism. Any of you out there that were disappointed with the way WWE was treating Keith Lee before he was let go, you didn't know about his health issues. The thing is that, and again, I don't want to criticize anybody today, but when it comes to journalism, I brought this up yesterday in the watch party. And if you want to go look out for it, go right ahead. There is a news site that is on Twitter that posts anything they can to get you to click on it because of the ad revenue. And this person wrote, "Rest in peace, Bray Wyatt. He was only 31. They either wrote 31 or 32. I think they wrote 31. And there's 1 million views on it. And when you click on it, because I wanted to say, why the fuck are you leaving this up? He was 36. They have a blue check mark, which means they could have edited it. But then it hit me. They intentionally wrote the wrong year because they knew everybody would go to correct them. And you go on the page, the thread, and all you read is, he was 36. He was 36. Delete this. Why aren't you deleting this? Why don't you edit it? It's 36. He's 36. And he did that on purpose because they knew that everybody would stop to either correct them or yell at them for not taking it down. Anytime you ever see something posted and it's either wrong or fucked up, ask yourself, why doesn't the person take it down? Why is it so important to leave something fucked up or wrong online? In the case of Keith Lee, though, you didn't know what his health issues were. In the journalist world, there was a lot of rumblings. If you go back at that time, I didn't know what exactly was wrong with him. All I know is that he was ill. We didn't have any idea how bad it was. And then Mia Yim was the one that I think revealed it. And then Mia Yim said, to the people out there, can we try to be a little bit more responsible in the future? And they did it again and again and again. But as far as individual fans, no, you shouldn't feel guilty because you didn't know about Keith Lee's condition. You trust that what you're reading is true. WWE has nothing for Keith Lee. Creative Vince, is not happy with Keith Lee. But meanwhile, Keith Lee's in a hospital. Almost, I think on a respirator or whatever it was. I don't remember what the machine was called. And you look back on it and you're like, man, oh boy. Thank you, Rizzo. Chris Cutler with the 10 spot. Bray passing. Hits me like Eddie Gilbert or Brian Pillman. Yeah, Brian's right there with Terry. Not so much about the great wrestler lost, but the great wrestling minds that should have helped shape the business for years to come. I agree, man. I agree. Bray Wyatt could have ended up in WWE creative or creative for another company when he was in his 50s and beyond. His creative mind, he could probably look at somebody and say, "Oh, I think you could turn it." I can imagine his mind racing, like just envisioning the thing about Bray Wyatt is, yeah, he wore a mask as the Fiend, but when he became Bray Wyatt, you can't just 24 hours later, glue facial hair on you and change your hairstyle and change your whole look. It's got to grow in, and you got to get yourself in shape, and you got to buy outfits, and you got to, test things out. You got to see crowd reaction. Imagine if he would have went the Axel Mulligan route. Probably wouldn't have been anywhere close to being good. So, but Eddie Gilbert had a very creative mind. Brian Pillman, man. Brian Pillman was just beat crazy, man. Brian Pillman, like the Terry Funk footage I showed earlier, Brian Pillman probably could have done this very same thing. You can picture him brawling, up in 100 gymnasiums with 100 people in attendance doing that crazy shit. Charlie, I don't know why you keep writing a comment saying August 22nd, DTKC isn't for everybody. If you're asking about the show we did on Tuesday, yeah, that was a Patreon exclusive, and I put it for channel members just because I will be on vacation. Not everything is free in this world. Our Patreon family and our YouTube channel members help pay the bills. So giving them a little bit extra as a treat, yeah. I don't force anybody to, what do you want me to do? I mean, I'm sorry you're complaining about that. Kevin and I will be doing a payback review on Tuesday for everybody, and look at it like this too. When I do the Q&A episodes, you send me 34 things to bring up, and I don't take a penny from you. I don't ask for money for anybody. Some people, all their stuff is on a paywall and nothing else. At one point early this year, I thought about putting everything on a paywall because I can't afford it. But I figured out ways to work around it. And, I'm sorry, but yeah, I am going to give a little bit extra sometimes, as a thank you for helping us, remain being able to do this. So I don't take it personal. Don't be upset. I'm not upset at you. But there's some others out there that would get upset at that. So, all right. Chris Cutler with a 5 spot. As absurd as it sounds, I always figured Terry Funk would always be here. Not only the greatest wrestler that ever lived, but the most timeless. What's so great about Terry Funk too? And I don't want to stop playing comparison games. If you watch a Ric Flair match from 81, and you watch a Ric Flair match from 91, and you watch a Ric Flair match from 01, even though the look might be a little bit different, the match itself is almost the same. It is almost the same. You look at Terry Funk in 81, 91, and 01, there is shit that is different every single time. The guy always knew how to reinvent and tweak and feel out it. And it's hilarious. The video I showed you earlier, Terry Funk what did he do? He punched. He threw people through chairs at people and tables, but he was on his feet. The only time he fell off his feet was when he rolled out of the ring and landed on his head. He landed on his head. Like, he did all of that. And if you watch the uncut version, it's about 10 minutes of it, maybe more. And he never left his feet once. And people loved every minute of it. And it wasn't even a match. That's what the fans wanted to see. And I went to indie shows and ECW shows. And ECW was more organized, even though there was a lot of hardcore stuff. But you go to those shows and there's disarray, but it didn't matter. You didn't care if the match ended up a total clusterfuck like that. You just had an awesome time. That's why for me, again, psychology and creativity is always number one in my book. Give me that over a 5-star match any day of the week. But that's just me. Thank you, Chris. John Wolf. What's up, John? Thank you for the 5 spot. He's got a quote. Very, very apropos. Roger Scruton once said, coming to the end of life, you begin to realize what life means. And what it means is gratitude. That's why I brought up earlier, some wrestlers want to say hello to you when it's time to say goodbye. And that's not end of life. That's end of career. When you realize that you're about to lose something, that's where you have the most appreciation. You have a storm hit, you lose your property. You know, whether you lose it or if you don't lose it and you come close, you prepare and you save it, you still, it puts it in a different mindset, what you almost lost. You get into a car wreck and, you know, a couple of inches here, a couple inches there would have been a total different outcome. Makes you start appreciating a little bit more. And in a lot of years, for a lot of people, they start appreciating life when it's about to be taken away. You know, on the flip side of that, I don't know if this is the case for Terry Funk, but I guarantee you that there's a lot of you out there that agree with what I'm about to say. You've come across people who are at the tail end of their life, and because they have lost loved ones along the way, they're ready to go. I know someone whose wife passed away, mother, father, I think two of her kids. Two of his kids. Yeah, what am I saying? And he wasn't afraid of death. He was, you know what? I'm ready. You know, he didn't want to rush it, but he was looking forward to seeing his family again. I talked about my aunt who went senile, who passed away about 7 years ago. And about 2 months before she passed, we were over at my mom's house, and she was there. And I remember my wife was there too, and her name is Aunt Ann. Auntie Ann, we used to call her. And I had said something to like, Auntie Ann, how you doing? How's everything? And she was like, nah, I don't feel that good today. You know, I'm going to see my mom and my dad later and stuff like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, her mother and father died like 20 years ago. Like she was just talking insanity, but she was waiting to see her family again. You know, it's, for some people, you know, isn't that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, isn't that supposed to be like based on like you finally appreciate things that you didn't appreciate before? Isn't like a lot of movies like that? Like you take things for granted and then you finally, you know, you wake up and you realize, you know, but that's a good quote. But for some people out there, you know, it gets to a point where you're like, you know what? I'm ready. And let's see, Chris Cutra. Thank you for the 20 spot, Chris. Flair versus Funk was the perfect follow-up to Steamboat versus Flair in '88. Two classic feuds that produced totally different matches. I don't think there's ever been two legendary world title feuds back-to-back before or since then. It's, you know, late 80s, a lot different than 2000s. So even when I was playing the Funk Blanchard audio earlier, I'm looking at the chat room and a lot of people are like, wow, you know, this has a real old school feel to it, old school vibe. You know, there is an old school vibe to things. Sometimes you see a match today and it gives you a little old school vibe to it. But yeah, you got to give that credit to Ric Flair too. I mean, Steamboat as well. But Ric Flair, you know, it was last week, Guardian of Chaos had brought up. He was asking me Ric Flair or Harley Race. And I think he also may have said Ric Flair or Terry Funk. And I said that, and he said as far as world champions go, I think Dusty Rhodes was also in on that conversation. Wasn't about their career, but as far as world champion goes, Ric Flair was a stronger heavyweight champion than Terry Funk. Ric Flair drew the crazy crowds. He had that draw. Terry Funk was a draw also, but Terry Funk was also a great villain for the babyface. And in this case, Ric Flair became the babyface to Terry Funk, who was the villain. So, you know, they're top quality in their aspects. But yeah, back to back, to go from Flair Steamboat to Flair Funk, That was pretty awesome time. You know, and let's not forget, that was just WCW. You know, WWF had some pretty good shit at that time as well. I mean, you know, next year, ultimately, we ended up with Slaughter and Hogan and, you know, but then The Undertaker would show up and then Ric Flair would show up and, you know. But, you know, I say this, isn't it interesting to go from Flair Funk in 89 to Flair Piper in the WWF in 91? Even though that was great, was that selling out like buildings, you know, for an extended time, pay-per-view quality? You know, it felt like it was still the undercard because that's how WWF, I felt, treated it. So thank you, Chris. Thank you. We get two more. Mark Hicks, this second with a 2-spot. This one will hurt for a while. Rest in peace, Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk. Yeah, I mean, Terry Funk has me sad, but he lived a long life. And I have so many personal memories that'll always put a smile on my face that I'll always think about. So he had a long, long career. We just celebrated 10 years of the Wyatt family. And 2 of the members are gone. I mean, Eric Rowan, we rarely see on TV much anymore. Braun Strowman out with an injury. But remember this. It wasn't too long ago when people were talking about, let's reform the Wyatt family. I know Brody Lee is no longer here, but maybe WWE could do a different, like a reincarnation of the Wyatt family. Bray could have a group of people. And people were fantasizing, like, who would be a good, like, clique, you know, with Bray Wyatt, like a different version. And that's it. Wyatt family's done. The name of the family, Bray Wyatt, done. No more Wyatt family. That's it. It was only, what, a month ago that we were all talking about, like, who could be, like, you know, could WWE do a new Wyatt family? It won't feel the same without Luke Harper, but maybe a little tribute, you know, something. They showed that rocking chair yesterday by itself. That was sad, man. That was sad. Seeing Braun, there was a moment where Braun and Eric Rowan were hugging, and they were both bawling in tears. There's a lot of, you know, a lot of crying on that stage yesterday. You know why I think everybody loved Bray Wyatt too? Yeah, there was moments, it may not, like I said, may not have been the greatest wrestler. But you know why I think a lot of people love Bray Wyatt also? Because physically, he was a big guy. But physically, he looked more like me. You know, minus the tattoos and the hairstyle. Like, you know, big, chubby guy that liked to eat and hang out and have fun and just like to wrestle and, you know, be a little creative and cared about the fans. You know, the guy that just seemed like he was having a good time. When you see all the tributes coming in right now, what do you keep seeing? From Seth Rollins to Alexa Bliss to Braun Strowman to countless people. Like almost kid-like. Like Bray Wyatt was this big kid. I think that's why he clicked with so many people. Not just the character and the psychology and everything else. You know, people that met him on the outside. You know, like when he did autograph signings, you see countless videos and pictures. He looked like he legitimately was happy to be there. Sometimes you could lie, you know, and put the front on because you're making that money. Bray Wyatt always seemed like he was having a good time and was in love to be there. And it's going to hurt for a lot of people for a while. You know, like I said earlier, I got choked up at the beginning. I could only imagine how his family and friends and fellow wrestlers feel. So, okay. Eric Williams. What's up, Eric? Thank you for the 5 spot. Can I talk about the Terry Funk, Shane Douglas XPW match? He heard from Rob Black's podcast that it was controversial. Were I there? Eric, I was doing timekeeping during that match. I've shown pictures in the past. I don't have the video here today, but I will play it in the very near future. I will be allowed to do so. I worked behind the scenes with XPW, more like, like runner stuff and everything. Nothing, trust me, no creative, no booking, nothing like that. But I did timekeeping that night. And I was at the timekeeper's table with Frank Talent, who is the head of the Philadelphia State Athletic Commission. Chris Kloss, was he there? I don't remember. I don't think Chris Kloss was at ringside. I don't remember the other guy that was there. But I was sitting at the timekeeper's table. And like I said, if you watch that match at the beginning, you will see me sitting at the timekeeper's table and Terry Funk throwing a chair right at me. And I literally jumped out of the way. But, I know obviously Terry Funk, who he is, and everything about him. So I knew he wasn't trying to hit me, but you got to play it off like, the fuck's this guy doing? I'm not going to get into the match details, but I will say this. To this day, it is one of the most surreal things I have ever seen up close and personal. Because Terry Funk had the match with Shane Douglas, and Lizzie Borden, Rob Black's wife, was the valet for Shane Douglas at the time, manager of LA, whatever you want to use. And there was a lot of controversy because Pennsylvania was trying to get Rob Black and XPW out of Philly. Ring of Honor was trying to get him out of Philly, CZW, 3PW, local residents, writers online, news sites, PWBTS. I'll never forget that Bob McGee jerk that sent flyers to people, porn is coming to your neighborhood. And they ended up succeeding in getting XPW out of that neighborhood. But that night I was doing timekeeping, and Terry Funk had the match with Shane Douglas, and then they went outside. And I will never forget it. When they went outside, everybody flocked to the door as well, including me. And this guy Slash, and when I do show you the video in the near future, you'll see everything I'm about to say. This guy Slash, who I was friends with at the time, that gave me the opportunity to do some work for XPW, he went outside with them. And while they were outside, I didn't see this happen as it happened, but while they were outside, Terry Funk takes a glass beer bottle, breaks it against the side of the ECW arena. Now, if you've ever watched, I don't mean to get too explicit, but you ever watch some wrestlers, not only do they cut themselves on the head, but some wrestlers will also cut their arms. They will cut some other areas for the visual of blood. Axl Rotten used to cut his arms a lot. And for some reason, Terry Funk breaks the bottle and cuts his forearm. Now, he didn't intentionally cut it as deep as he did, but he cut his arm so deep, you saw the muscle hanging out. And he walks back in the building, and I remember looking at Slash's face. He looks right at me, and he's like this. I'm like, what happened? And Terry Funk walks in like this, and he's showing everybody. Fans are by the guardrail. They're looking like, he's showing everybody his fucking muscle, his tendon is hanging out. And I go back to the ringside table, and he goes in the ring, and he's shaking, and they're trying to give him a towel. And he's like, oh God, oh shit. I'll never forget it. There is some footage on YouTube, but the quality is pathetic. I have crystal clear quality because I got the master video. I have the master video in my collection. So anyway, long story short, Terry Funk goes back in the ring. They're wrapping his arm with towels. They're trying to wrap it with stuff. And meanwhile, this guy's gushing. And it's not like the Sabu Born to Be Wired, because Sabu jumped up and unfortunately hit a piece of barbed wire and sliced his arm open. He wasn't trying to do that, because as soon as Sabu landed, Sabu's looking around like he didn't know what to do. And they taped it up. But Terry Funk, to this day, don't know why he did that. Then it just went off the rails. He pile drove Lizzie Borden. If I remember correctly, he pulled her panties off. Trust me, I had a front row seat. And after that night, the State Athletic Commission, that's when they had the emergency meeting. And I've told the story how I was in the ECW arena and Bill Apter was going to go to the meeting on behalf of XPW. WWF representatives were there. WCW's out of business. TNA was there. 3PW, Ring of Honor, and CZW, I think, were there as well. They were going to ban weapons, blood, and a bunch of other things. But it was the wildest, most surreal thing that I have ever seen up close with my own eyes. And one thing I will add to it that I've talked about before, after the show ended and we went into the back, all I remember is the ambulance showing up, and they ultimately get Terry Funk in the ambulance. They send him to the hospital. And I remember Shane Douglas angry, pissed. He was concerned about Terry, but he, I don't even think, understood why Terry did what he did. He was fucking angry because he knew what Philly was trying to do to XPW. And then this happened, and yeah, it was wild, man. It was pretty wild that night. And, you know, listen, that's why I always say, even though our favorites are going to pass on, the one thing that they can't take away from you, they won't take away from you, they won't take away from me, is this and this. You know, yes, I know some people end up with, you know, health issues. They don't remember things. But for the majority of us, when we're living our ripe old ages, we'll never forget the memories of what we've seen and enjoyed. Whether it's in person, on TV, you know, they can't take away your memories. So, but yeah, that was pretty freaking wild, man. Okay. Pog, P-O-G. Thank you for the 40 spot. Very simply. Thank you, Bray. Thank you, Terry. Agree 100%, man. I know we did a different show today, and we ended up doing 3 hours. But for me, I will be selfish for a second. Again, my favorite wrestler of all time, my favorite current wrestler, both pass away in 48 hours. Not even. Yeah, you best damn believe I'm going to give a little bit of an extra special tribute show. Dream 101 to bring this home. We need to show love when wrestlers are alive. #bro. Yes, I will include you in on that card. By the way, they did get all the gifts already. I will post next week pictures of them. I'm not giving the card until September because some people still, you know, want to be part of it. So we'll talk about that on Monday. We don't have to talk about that here. But thank you, Dream, for that. Yeah, I mean, in closing, you know, as I said earlier, go to Swerve Strickland's Twitter. Look what he wrote. You know, and it's similar to what we said, you know, when Hana Kimura passed and others. You know, it sucks that for some people a tragedy, a death, seems to bring people together. And then after a short amount of time, it wears off and everybody's fighting again. You know, what I will say in closing is that if you really pay close attention, and I use AEW and WWE specifically for a reason, if you look at those guys and those gals, they look out for each other. They absolutely look out for each other. And there's a brotherhood there. There's a sisterhood. They ain't trying to undercut each other. There's competitiveness, and there is a friendly competitive aspect to it. Oh, I outdrew you. Oh, I outdrew you. Oh, there's not that hatred and animosity. Sure, there's, not everybody's going to get along, but at the end of the day, everybody wants to see their fellow brothers and sisters succeed. When I worked for USA Pro Wrestling back in the day, and you had Tommy Dreamer, who was still working for WWF at the time, and you had the Voodoo Kid Mafia show up and they're in TNA and you see Abyss and you see this person and this person. They weren't like, oh, fuck WWE or fuck you, TNA. No, they all hugging, hanging out, you know, talking about how's this, how's that. You know, that needs to carry over in the wrestling community as well. You could brag about your favorite promotions, absolutely. But, you know, there's got to be that respect factor, you know, and just because you may watch something that someone else doesn't, or just because you think something is better and someone else begs to differ, you know, doesn't mean you have to fight over it. You know, it's fun to debate and it's fun to brag, but, you know, that hatred and anger needs to subside a little bit. I hope some things do change. You know, only time will tell, but I'm going to jet out of here. My friends, I thank you very much for joining me for this special episode. You know, I will be back. Should we do a sit down tomorrow? Yeah, you know what? Let's do a sit down tomorrow. Tomorrow, 8:05 p.m. Eastern, Sunday night will be the sit down. Basically, you ask the questions or comments and we talk about it. So tomorrow, whatever you want to talk about, we will talk about it. I know some of you are going to ask me about AEW All In. Am I watching it tomorrow? I'm not sure. This kind of like took wrestling out. It took a lot out of me this week, and not like in the, you know, that frame of mind. I probably will watch it tomorrow. I'm not sure yet. I might cover it on Wednesday. But we'll definitely do a sit-down episode tomorrow night. And, yeah, we'll talk about this a little bit further if you want to talk about it, because you dictate what we talk about tomorrow. Monday will be the Don Tony Show, Raw recap as always. Tuesday will be a preview and predictions for Payback. Kevin and I will be hosting that. I'll probably talk about All In during Wednesday Night Dynamite next week. Then we have the Q&A that will be posted, and then I'm going on vacation, September 1st to September 9th. I will tell you that the week that I'm out, the history show will still drop, and I might post a Q&A that week also while I'm gone. This way, at least there's something new that comes out. But just make a note that next Saturday, I will be off. I will be off from the 1st to the 9th. Yeah, I think Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk are smiling. Yeah. Be well, everybody.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.